All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. It's Wednesday. This is July 30th, 2025. I'm your host, Waylon the Indoor Farmer, and this is my show on Wednesdays. We call it We Grow Wednesday. And today, we actually have a little bit of a special, unusual day. I'm actually a guest on. Yes, I'm actually going to be a guest on someone else's show, so I'm going to pull it up here on the screen. Okay, let's see. I'm not going to play the intro today because I have to share in immediately the screen. Let's go here. And yes, let's go to the space where I'm the special guest today. Let's go. Why can't I find it? Click here, maybe. Oh no. Okay, maybe I can. We can do this.
Hi, good morning.
It's so nice to be able to put a voice to the name.
Yes, absolutely. I tried to sign in last week and I don't know what happened, but it's like once I opened the space, everything sort of froze. I couldn't do anything with it. And I couldn't use the app all day until it finally occurred to me later in the day to reset my phone. So I tried to participate last week and I technical issues.
Well, I'm so glad that you figured it out. I'm glad you're here.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yes. Hi, Amy. Okay, we're going to wait a couple more minutes and then I'll get started. I'm setting out some links. Hey, are you all seeing a purple pill today? I feel like I never get one. I don't know why that is. Yeah, I don't think I have one. Can you guys see the comments with the space? Give me a thumbs up if you can. Yeah. Oh, no.
I do not.
No. Why is that happening?
I don't know anything about spaces. I can't help. Sorry.
Amy, can I bring you up, Amy? Can you request? That stinks. Because I just went through and I put a bunch of links underneath the space so people could access some resources, but it's so strange. Okay. Hey, Amy, you have any input on this?
Well, I know I have this battle. She says she goes and edits the space all the time. Oh, there's Kim. And she doesn't have a problem. If I edit or do anything to the title or anything, I don't get a pill. So I think really at this point, it's personal.
I know that's so strange because I didn't edit the title. I haven't edited the title for the past 2 weeks and I still am having issues. I wonder if it's because I'm opening the space on my desktop. I wonder if that's why. So I'm using my desktop. Yeah. Well, I'll just, plug ahead. So, hi, Waylon. I think he might. So he's doing a live feed of this on he has a show that he does on Rumble and here on X. And so when we hi.
Hello, ladies. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. How are you? Okay, he's doing a sound check.
All right. I'm very sorry about this. Sometimes, as you see with your space, technology does not always want to cooperate with us, does it?
No, I know. It's crazy. What can you do? So are you set to go?
I believe so. I'm actually going to. I'm just, on my side. I'm going to talk to my chat in the comments and make sure everything is okay. And yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm yours now. I can hear you all fine. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay,
I
so yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I do this as a podcast, so I'm going to do a formal intro and then just, start in on that, and then I'll close it out after the hour's done, and then we can open it up. I don't know how long you're able to stick around, but if anybody has questions and wants to contribute to the conversation after, then that's like how I do it. So,
Sounds good to me. I have plenty of time.
okay, thank you. Thanks so much. Hi, Lisa. Do you want to come up? Do you guys all want to come up? Feel free to request the mic. Feel free to request the mic. All right. Well, I'll start out with the intro and off we go. Feel free to request the mic. Hey everybody, welcome to Grow and Tell.
All right.
On today's
Well,
show,
I'll start out with the intro and off we go.
Farmer. He's a father.
Feel free to request the mic.
Someone who's deeply passionate. Hey everybody, welcome to Grow and
All
Tell.
right.
On today's
Well,
show,
I'll start out with the intro and off we go.
Indoor space. He's a father.
Feel free to request the mic.
Growing system. Hey everybody, welcome to Grow and Tell.
All right. Well, I'll start out with the intro and off we go. Feel free to request the mic.
Hey everybody, welcome to Grow and Tell.
All right. Well, I'll start out with the intro and off we go. Feel free to request the mic.
Welcome to Wayland
Hey
Wednesday.
everybody, welcome to Grow and Tell.
All right. Well, I'll start out with the
working
intro and
title.
off we go. Feel free to
Hello,
request the
everybody.
mic.
Welcome to Wayland
Hey everybody,
Wednesday.
welcome to Grow and
All right.
Aquaponics,
Well,
and then a little history lesson. Do you want to walk us through it?
Feel free to
Hello,
request the mic.
everybody. Welcome to
Sure.
Wayland
Hey
Wednesday.
everybody,
I'd
welcome
love
to
to.
Grow and
I
Aquaponics,
actually
and then
think of aquaponics as
you wanna
not
walk us
just
through it?
something
Feel
that
free to
request
the mic.
is new and
Sure.
Hey everybody,
I'd love
welcome
to.
to Grow and
I
Aquaponics,
actually
and then
interesting nowadays, but it's something that we've been using for
Feel
thousands
free to
of
request
years.
the mic.
It's new and
hey everybody, welcome
I
to
don't want to
Grow
go
and
down that path, but yeah, it's, I mean, it's literally it's something that thousands of years old.
Feel free to request the mic.
Definition, I guess I don't know the dictionary definition, but I would say it's the merger of
Free to request
aquaculture
the mic.
and hydroponics. And so a lot of people kind of get them mixed up, but they are kind of mixed up. I would say it's the merger of
Free to request the
growing
mic.
food using just water, which we call hydroponics, and then they are the process of breeding and
Free to request the
cultivating
mic.
more fish, which would be aquaponics or aquaculture. I'm sorry. And so you put those two together and create a wonderful combination.
Free to request the mic.
So I know the Aztec. I did a little research, and the Aztecs had started out with floating gardens. And I think I've listened to you and Johnny interviewed
Free to request the
on
mic.
the floating gardens and his research, and how the Aztecs had started out with all that stuff. They were even
Free to
using
request
the
the mic.
waste from fish. So it does go back as far as Aztec breeding, which I was really surprised to find out. They were
Free to request the mic.
Well, they kind of noticed over time that the plants that they see growing near water, near lakes and rivers, they notice they grow much better over time. And obviously, most civilizations started up around water, and it just kind of, I think it was just obvious at some point, like, well, hey, everything uses this water, and so you can look at aquaponics as simple as just taking water from obvious and feeding the plants with it, or you can get more complicated as pumping water, or like they did back then, they would dig these trenches around the water and around like the lake side and things like that, to where you could get water coming from the body of water into the land and kind of creating little crevices, and we know that from things like the rice paddies, the rice fields that they have in Asian countries, where we know that from, I guess, from things like and they use the symbiotic relationship. They actually put fish into those sometimes. And now you're seeing China going the other way, where and I think it was China, maybe use the symbiotic. They're actually creating these sort of floating rafts. Now you're seeing China over the top going the other way, where bodies of water, and then China maybe use less land. They're actually creating these crops, floating rafts. Now you're seeing China
Very smart.
going the other way, where bodies of water, and then
So
China
I
maybe use
have a background
less land.
in
They're
gardening,
actually
and
creating
I started my seeds indoors, and then I was thinking, because lettuce doesn't do well in summer, so I have a background in hydroponics. I had aquaponics, and then I was thinking, saw that lettuce doesn't do well in summer, so I started. I have a background in I just think it's a really good thing to learn, just in case. I mean, I was thinking about lettuce. What inspired you to start with hydroponics? I mean, I just think it's a really good thing to learn, just in case. I mean, I was thinking about lettuce.
Oh boy,
What inspired you to
it's
start?
been a while. I kind of started conceiving the idea as maybe not like aquaponics or farming, but I kind of get political, but conceiving the idea even as maybe not like aquaponics or farming, but started to think a little bit more self-sustainable would be not a bad thing, and that kind of took me on. And then as things got more crazy in the world, it's like, okay, now it's a little more serious. And I would say it's been almost 4 years now of my podcast, and it took me about 2 years of sort of conceptualizing, I would say, coming up with what I would be doing, why I would be doing. And so I kind of created them at the same time. I created 2 years at the same time as I started to try coming up with what I would be doing. And like, let's try something kind of simple. But I had a friend of mine that was in aquaponics. I would try coming up with what I would be doing. And like, let's try something kind of simple. But I had a big bins that chemical companies would use that have a big metal cage around them. Like, a lot of people use those for grow bins that chemical different ways to grow things. And he just kind of, it wasn't a perfect system. It wasn't, in my head. And I think a lot of people do this. They see it and they think, well, I can do better. And I could just kind of, it wasn't a perfect system. It wasn't what he's doing. And I also just kind of fell in love with it, because when you're thinking about being more self-sustainable, what's a better way to grow your food? I also just kind of fell in love with it, because when you're thinking about being more self-sustainable, you have not only do you have your plants, but you have
What food system are you using? Is it really aquaponics, or do you do hydroponics? What's the difference between the two?
So I actually, at first, I didn't want to do hydroponics because I knew it wasn't organic. But now you actually can get organic nutrients. At first, I didn't want to do aquaponics into the hydroponic system. So you could be organic with it still, but then you still wouldn't have that fish byproduct. So right now, the only difference really is that hydroponics is just water. Literally, you just pour in different liquid nutrient combinations, however you want to do it, and it's just water being pumped through a bed or different buckets or whatever that might be. And aquaponics would be used to that, and like the fish, if you want to be organic with it both directions. I mean, personally, I'm not a fan of liquid. I use liquid nutrients, but if you're thinking about the the absolute most organic way that you can do things, I want to do them all in like a sort of mini ecosystem. And so with the water coming from the fish tank, from the aquarium, it can go through, and I have all these sort of plans and ideas of testing and experimenting, and that's kind of what you have to do. You can't just read a book on growing things and then be done thinking that you have all the knowledge. But you got to try things out. You got to test it out and see what it does. But with me, like I thought, well, if one day you could actually create a system that sort of gives itself nutrients in a way. You still have to add some things. Unfortunately, in indoor grow, you will still always have some sort of additives, whether that be nice way. You still have to add some things. Unfortunately, indoor grow, that is one thing that sucks it out of, because I don't like to use tap water, so I'm using RO water, but then I have to get the minerals back into the system. So that is one thing that sucks it out of, because I don't like to
What is
use
your setup like?
tap
Are you
water, so I'm
using
using RO water.
what's your thought on cocoa coir? Are you using
Minerals back into
vegetables?
the system. So
Do
that is one thing that sucks it out
experiment
of,
with any
because I don't like to
foods? What is
use
your setup like?
tap
Are you
water. So actually, I'm doing
thought
all
on
three of
cocoa
those
coir?
things.
Are you using
And
vegetables?
what I could do, I don't know if this would be possible, but I could actually walk through my camera will follow me and show you the aquaponic systems on the live feed while you're all in the space. What do you think of that?
Yes, let's
Follow
do
me
it. That
and
sounds
show
great.
you the aquaponic systems on the live feed while you're all in the space. What do you think of that?
Yes, let's
Follow
do
me
it. That
and
sounds
show
great.
you the aquaponic systems. I'm over here talking with my computer. I would just say,
Yes,
you wouldn't have turned the audio on for my video, but if you guys go to if you click my profile, you might be able to see it running right there on the main feed. I don't know, it's kind of on the fly thing, but we can still talk about it either way. But I would just say that I've actually experimented with multiple things. I don't know if you can hear me. I have a system that I kind of created with a bunch of repurposed materials. It does have an actual aquarium, but the rest of it is all just sort of materials that I put together, and it's something that I realized that you have to take the systems apart over time, no matter what you build. So I just kind of made it with different possible grow methods. So to answer your question, I have clay pebbles in one of the grow beds. I have a water bed that's just basically different water that has a grow methods in it. So to answer your question, I have clay pebbles, and then I also have a water that goes along the back of the wall that actually has that will be more running water, and then I have on top so I can actually have a water that goes along the back of the wall. I'm only using clay pebbles right now. And my camera lost me there. And anyway, I don't know that any of you will be able to see what I'm trying to show you while we're doing this, but it's okay if not. It's no big deal.
Well, it was certainly worth a shot. I'm not seeing you. I just see a clean background. But there you are. Well, it was certainly worth a shot. I'm not seeing you. I just see
It's taking a minute here. Here we are.
background. But this is so cool though that there you are. Well, it was certainly worth a shot. I'm not seeing you.
It's taking a minute here. Here we are.
But this is so cool though that there you are. Well, it was certainly worth a shot. I'm not seeing you.
It's taking a minute here. Here we are.
But this is so cool though that there you are. Well, it was certainly worth a shot. I'm not seeing you.
It's taking a minute here. Here we are.
This is so cool though that there you are. Well, it was certainly worth a shot. I'm not seeing
And what's funny is that I
there you are. Well, it was certainly worth a shot.
I didn't know that lettuce could vine actually. So I found out so many things just by trying stuff without an expectation, without reading too far into it and finding out, okay, well, it's supposed to do this, and then if it's not doing that, I automatically think something's wrong. So I don't do that. I actually just let it do its thing. And when you're indoors, you have less light, less nutrients. There's a lot of things. I see Ed in the comments there. Any listeners are interested in re-indoors soil management. You're missing some of those things outdoors. So you don't expect that. Listeners saying indoors soil management. You're missing big. I had a whole bunch of lettuce, and then I had no idea what to do with it because I really wanted to eat it. I'm like, I didn't make sandwiches or anything. I thought for some reason I just had to let it grow, and then I used it and then harvest it, and then I had a bag full of like lettuce that I had to throw away. So it was crazy.
I would say that is a really good problem to have. You can never have enough lettuce. Like that's the one thing that I prefer to never purchase from the supermarket. I would say that is a really good problem. Unfortunately, right now I'm never have enough lettuce. Like that's the one thing that I prefer. Although my lentils never purchase. I would say that is a really good problem. Unfortunately, right now I never have enough lettuce. Like that's the one thing that I prefer. Although my lentils never purchase. I would say that is a some of your right now. Some common mistakes that beginners make when it comes to although my lentils never. I would say that is
one of my biggest mistakes was that I did not just get started before I had some. I always thought I needed more equipment. One of my biggest mistakes was that I did everything else I needed. And it was right. That was true. But so much, no matter what you do, you're still going to have to get more things, more material, more equipment as you go anyway. And it's something that you can't be afraid to say, well, let me just do this one. For me, I didn't have a lot of grow lights at first, and grow lights is kind of a big thing indoors. And I also didn't have good space to do it, and there was just so many little things that looking back, I would have maybe done differently, but at the same time, I would have started sooner. I didn't try starting soon enough. Everybody has windows in their house. Everybody can take a tiny pot of herbs and just give it a try. And it doesn't have to be the biggest thing in the world for you, but get your mind to start working in that way, and get the wheels turning, right?
I can't agree with you more on that. Like in regards to even just gardening in a small space, that's where you start. Like it's my dream to have like a larger space, like an acre, half an acre, even bigger than acre gardening in a small space. What I have and where you start, and I think it's important to start where you are, explore where you are, and start to learn, so that by the time you do level up and you have an opportunity, you're ready to go. You can learn and start where you are, and we're talking about the grow lights. You want to see the setup. I'm curious to know if so I have grow lights because I start my seeds indoors. One of the things I need special kind of grow lights that are better for going indoors, or it's just the same principle. Or if you have any brand handy with special kind of grow lights that are better.
I don't have a brand I would recommend. I would say if you're going to do it on a larger scale, I would try to. I don't create a brand relationship with the light manufacturer, whether that be someone that you know or personally. I don't really look around because they're also different. And I have had lights that have gone bad on me, and then I'm continually waiting on the company to reimburse me or whatever. And actually, right now, I'm standing over where, if you look back here, I'm actually standing in front of my grow table, which is a soil-based grow system, but I use the water from the fish tank to water the system. And I don't know if you saw the aquaponics system, but what's funny right now is actually I use the water from the peppers don't look so good because they actually have a pest problem, but they also have a whole bunch of praying mantis on them. So it's kind of a battle happening. I can't really interfere too much with this, but they also have a whole bunch
Okay,
of
wait a minute. So
praying
this
mantis
is very
species
shocking.
that
I would have never thought that going
that
indoors
I
you would
can't
have
really
to deal with.
interfere too much.
So like, where do they come
praying
from?
mantis
This is very
species.
shocking.
So I don't have a sort of
Dialed
dialed in grow room, you might say, like a lot of people.
So
And I would equate it to the cannabis world because most cannabis growers who grow commercially or sort of large scale indoors, they're going to have like a light room with, everything dialed in and fans where the room has like constant pressure and, all of these things with lighting and for me, like I actually have my puppy right here with me in the same room that I do my podcast and have all the games. So, you're just asking for the outside to come inside when you do that. And, some people will, make sure they take a shower and change and have certain clothes they put on when they go inside their grow room. And a lot of that is something I'll probably get to eventually. But I also kind of like Mother Nature. I like the circle of life a little bit. And so I like a lot of that is ladybugs in here and praying mantis. But I also kind of like chemicals Mother Nature. I like trying to control things. I think is part of our problem, And yeah, while I may have pests, I also kind of like chemicals Mother Nature. I like trying to control things. I think pepper plants are a lot of that, And yeah, while I may have pests, I also kind of like chemicals Mother Nature. Which is interesting, but also learning process. I'm not afraid of them. I know how to deal with them if I wanted to. I just don't want to kill all the little baby praying mantis that are just starting to, get into life. I'm not afraid of them.
Yeah, I'm from up north, and I used to see praying mantis all the time, but I haven't seen any in the southern. I live in North Carolina now.
Get
So
into life.
Are they? Do they thrive in the south as well, or is it mostly all the time? But I haven't seen any in the southern. I live in North Carolina now.
Get into life.
Are they? Do they thrive in the south as well, or is it mostly all the time? But I haven't seen any in the southern. I live in North Carolina now.
Get into life.
Do they thrive in the south as well, or is it mostly all the time? But I haven't seen any in the southern. I live in North Carolina now.
Get into life.
Do they thrive in the south as well? Yeah, tropical fish.
Right. It depends on the size of your system. I would always my personal advice would be to start small. I actually purchased a system. I would always my 10-gallon aquarium system on Amazon. I think was $165. I actually purchased a only going to fit a few puppies in there. 10-gallon and goldfish are on Amazon. Fish. They start small. I actually purchased a lot of waste. 10-gallon and goldfish are on Amazon. Fish. They start small. Honestly, is not necessarily always the case. You don't want a really dirty system because the fish will be less happy and has a lot of issues there. Actually, I wanted to bring up one of the reasons that I'm doing this. Like I feel like we need to supplement, maybe not replace, supplement how we're doing things. And the tropical fish and the crayfish, those are good ways to start, but there are some good actual, maybe not replace, but supplement how we're doing things. And right now there is those are good ways to fertilizer in the world. And I think fish can be a big help with that. I think.
I prefer to use an ocean-based compost, and I know that a couple of years back, a lot of people were having an issue with this one brand of fertilizer was based compost. So I agree with you. Like I've shied away from using those types of fertilizers and compost, and really just love anything fish fertilizers and just ocean-based stuff. And really it's so great because you have your own resource to fish with now. So it's just such a great keep the animals safer. It's so great because you have your own resource to fish with now. So
Yeah, I mean, I do, like I said, there's some additives that you have to get things. But for the most part, I don't really, I still actually have so much nutrients from different companies. I never end up needing it really. I'm also not, I'm not really pushing anything that I'm growing at the moment, if that makes sense. Basically, everything I have growing is kind of just there, and I eat some of it. Some of it I'm experimenting with. But for the most part, none of the stuff in my room that I'm in now is actually commercial. So I have that in another room. And so for this stuff in here, it's like I don't really care what happens to it. Even though, yeah, I do to some extent, but for the most part, I want to. I'll learn a lesson either way. Really care what happens to it, no matter which way I go with it. Yeah, I do to some extent, but for the most part, for me, I've learned things that I'm here to not really care. A lot of these plants act really funny indoors. Yeah, I do trying to get more light, and so they stretch and stuff. And it may not be something that you want to happen, but it's something that you may not know can happen. And you're like, whoa, I've never seen a vine of lettuce. It may not be things like that. It's weird. And that's just kind of something to go with. Now, back to the lights, though, I guess I might not have the light up right now that I have in place. Kind of that same story I said about the company. I don't want to mention them, but they're just dragging their feet on replacing a much bigger light that's covering a table bottle, which company is what I need. LED lights are probably the most popular indoor lights. You have to worry a little bit about that light with your eyes, though. I have a pair of sunglasses that help me block the LED or some of the harmful rays of indoor lights. So that's something to think about. It's also something green screens and also have four screens in front of me with a whole bunch of lights and stuff. And so that can be helpful for that as well. Anybody that's doing a lot of computer work and stuff like that. So it's just good in front of me with a whole bunch of lights. What's funny is I actually started wearing sunglasses outside as well. Another topic of computer work.
oh
And stuff like
yes,
that.
I know all about that. The circadian rhythm, how all
What's funny is I actually started wearing sunglasses outside as well. Another topic of computer work.
oh yeah. What other things are you growing? What are you eating? Because you do say you're experimenting, but what do you enjoy and what do you eat? And what would you say some of the, I don't know, easiest things are to grow for you versus some of the hardest?
Well, indoors, it's pretty common that leafy greens are much, much easier to grow indoors in general. And that's, think of your house plants and anything else that grows indoors. It requires the least spectrum of light and green, and it actually just grows much easier in LED lights than, say, like a fruiting plant. And the other issue with anything fruiting is it's going to require a little more nutrients, and it depends on what you grow. Like, for instance, a tomato plant requires a lot of sun and a lot of nutrients. So a lot of aquaponics farmers commercially will put tomatoes at the end of their system in order to purposely draw out all of the nutrients at the end of the system in order to have that cycle of fresh water going back in. For me, though, with aquaponics specifically, I gotta say, basil, no pun intended, Robin, basil and the green peppers, the sweet peppers that I'm growing they just love it in there. Even the peppers that have the spider mites on them, they're still producing peppers. They love it in there. It's crazy. They're not going to be as big as outdoors, and that's one thing about the difference. People will garden outdoors in the summer and have a huge haul, have this huge harvest, and that's great. But then you have to process and you have to find ways to can things and to make it into food that's going to last through the winter. And that's a great skill to have. I'm not there yet. I would love to learn how to ferment things and can things, but the idea of growing inside would be to supplement that during the winter. And also, I can just come down here every time I make a meal and just cut a few things, throw it in the meal. I don't have to harvest and then have some kind of a way to keep it safe. So it's a different way of doing things. It's like you eat it as it grows, instead of having a one year or one time, or maybe two harvests a year. Some seasonal areas have two or more. Depends on what you're growing. But then you factor into the outdoors, where a lot of people, and I guess I'm running on a tangent, but a lot of people who grow outdoors can utilize the indoors. A lot of people are, where they have trays of starters and they're getting their tomatoes ready with just little cups and little small grow lights, or maybe just the window light, a few weeks before the grow season hits outside, and then you're really hitting the ground running. So it's great.
Now, speaking of basil, I love making pesto. So right now I've got a ton of basil I have to harvest. It just made me think of garlic. Are you able to grow garlic indoors? Do you know?
I have not tried yet. I would like to. I mean, I'll list to you all the things I have grown indoors. I've actually grown unsuccessfully. I grew cucumbers. Now the cucumbers vined everywhere and they flowered everywhere, and they had these little tiny cucumbers starting to grow, but then that was it. It didn't end up working out after that. I think maybe I don't have enough light for cucumbers or something. But then everything else basically has been successful, which would be let's see, lettuce. Uh, I've grown spinach. I've grown uh, right now. I actually have arugula, kohlrabi. Let's see, bull's blood beets, radishes, and daikon radishes. I've got broccoli. I've got green onions. I've got a pineapple growing. I've got mint growing. The pineapple came from the store, actually. It's in the aquaponics system, which is not its happy place, but it did start rooting in there. So I'm just kind of seeing what will happen. I kind of doubt anything will come of that, but it is what it is. And then I've also got mint growing and green peppers. The basil has died finally, but I had a basil tree for like 2 years. It was insane. I was actually drying the basil, putting it in little pouches, sending it out to my audience within these little swag packs and stuff like that. So it was fun.
That is so sweet. You shared it with your audience. That's so sweet. That's awesome. So you said daikon radish, like you're speaking my language. One of my favorite things is pickled daikon radish. So I'm surprised to find out you can grow that indoors too. Um, what else was I going to say? Oh, broccoli. I heard you talking to Johnny in an interview that he did with you about how that was a surprise for you. You actually started off growing the broccoli sprouts, which actually that is one thing that I do is grow the sprouts in the jar. That whole way that you can grow your own sprouts in the jar kind of method. And I do a broccoli one. So I was surprised to find out that when you did that, it ended up growing a broccoli plant. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, I actually have insane broccoli. It's just every time I chop it down and I bury it into the soil for the worms, just more broccoli grows up. And right now, it's about to cover my light again. And the broccoli looks all funny. It doesn't look like a regular broccoli head. Sometimes they come out a little bit like that, but for the most part, it's just like. But you can eat most of the broccoli plant. You can eat all the leaves, although the big, crusty ones you're not going to eat. But like I'll chop out a bunch of the smaller ones, throw them into whatever you would use lettuce for, and but yeah, the broccoli is it's like vining, and you can also eat the broccoli flower, which is cool. That's another thing I didn't think about, and let me just say, like, I took this whole thing on as somebody who didn't grow anything. And so the whole point of the show is to say, hey, here's what happens when the, regular person, average guy, me, Neanderthal, Waylon, just decides to figure it out. And, I'm not spending every waking hour doing this. I have lots of things that I like, I'm interested in. And it's hard because your mind wants to pull you towards things you're more interested in, not things you already know, or not things that you don't know that well. So it's a constant battle, but that's what the show was for, was that, hey, let me show my weekly sort of ups and downs, that the grind of learning. Because guys, YouTube is a great, a great place to learn, but at the same time, those people, they spend months sometimes editing, and they have this video that's so perfectly made where, oh look, here's all the measurements, I did everything perfect, it came out great. And that's not life, and that can actually deter a lot of people from giving things a try, because, oh, I'm not so perfect as that person, I'm not so, so polished, oh, I don't know how they're doing that. But here's a way to sort of show that daily, weekly kind of up and down, uh, from the average learning person. So like I got to say, I know a lot more now than I when I started, but I still try to come at it from that perspective, because you can't. I'll never be an expert, no matter, even if I went to college for it. I wouldn't think of any person as an expert in growing and things, like, because you got to learn. You got to constantly be learnable and teachable, and also okay with making mistakes. Those are lessons. Like, those are perfect lessons. That's content, baby.
That is so true. I think that when it comes to social media, you just have to keep in mind that you're just only seeing people's best. And especially when it comes to YouTube and even the homesteading videos, like I used to find it so intimidating. Everybody's videos look so perfect, idyllic. Um, it just because people were only showing you the I don't know, I don't wanna say glamorous, but the beautiful side of everything, like, everything looks so idyllic and perfect. Many people just wouldn't start because it's intimidating to see that, but the truth is, and I know this now from also doing what you're doing, that is experimenting with things and just trying them and failing and succeeding, but failing a lot. Um, yeah, you're never gonna have, a growing season where everything goes perfectly. In fact, more things than not will have issues, which right now I'm so upset because I'm experimenting by growing pak choi. I don't know if you've ever grown any choys indoors, but I grew pak choi this summer, even though ideally the greens are supposed to be for the fall season, and they were doing so well, and now something's eating them. But what can you do? But have you grown any choys?
I have not. I actually need to make a push for like new things to grow. I actually have some microgreens that are different things I've never grown. And what's funny about microgreens is that you don't expect to grow them to, full to maturity. But that's actually where a lot of the plants in my grow table came from, because I would grow microgreen, and then once I've harvested what I could, the little mat of roots and things, like, you still have some plants that are in there that are still alive, and all I do is take the waste, more or less, and I put it into the table, and then boom, a bunch of those plants are now growing to maturity, which now I get to see what those do. But no, I haven't grown any choy. I want to grow actually a lot more herbs that are pest repelling and different things like that, like some lemongrass. I had some lemongrass, but it ended up dying. Um, Someone sent it to me over in the mail, so I don't think it was that happy when it made it here. But yeah, there's so many things I want to try to grow, but it's going to be a never-ending battle. I'd love to have multiple rooms where you have different climates as well, because this is one thing that I didn't think about until I got into this, until probably this year, is when I realized that a lot of these plants have different grow preferences on the season, and it's not just how much light and how much soil and nutrients and things. It's the temperature of even though I have heat and air conditioning in the house, we're in the basement here, which has its own ups and downs of using. A lot of people go straight to the basement, but there's actually some downfalls to it. But anyway, the basement still has a change in the season, and so like there's the walls are colder in the winter, and all of that, so it does change things. And also the light cycle will make plants think different things, and so For instance, I have green onions, which I think aren't so happy because the light cycle is a little bit more light than they typically would need. So there's that to think about, kind of companion planting indoors, which is a different type of companion planting, you know.
It's almost like you have different growing seasons under one roof, right? Depending on what room it is. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, you could say that. You could also, well, yeah, I have like three different rooms that I have grow lights in, and they are all for different things because they're all going to be on different light cycles, and also because you have to spread out some of the electricity use so you don't go blowing breakers. And that's been a problem this year, figuring out that my house is a little bit, it's the lower or the smaller amperage. There's like a double size amperage that some houses have, and so I'm going to have to try to get that upgraded eventually, and that's going to be a whole nother mess. So you have not just the plants to deal with, but indoors you have to know plumbing and lighting and electrical, and you have to kind of know a lot more about different things. And I kind of wanted to take that on because part of self sustainability, part of quote homesteading, is to be able to do a lot of those types of projects for yourself. And so I didn't want to go and just buy some store bought system, which I did, I did in the very beginning for a, very, very small system to give it a try. But then I went straight to building my own because I know there's going to be failures. There's going to be parts of it that don't work well and that need to be fixed. But that's another lesson. That's all part of the same motion towards growing my own food. Because, guys, I'll tell you, I am not a plant guy. I'm not a plant person. You might think I am, but my whole point is that we all are. We all have to eat. And so there's literally zero reason for you to not give it a try. Even in a, windowsill with a tiny pot, like there's zero reason. Like everybody, you don't have to love plants to know how important it is to have them and to know a little bit about them. Where's your food coming from? Anyway, don't get me started.
No, I want you to elaborate more. It's great. You're very well spoken, and just really this has been great. I what about indoor plants? Any luck with those? Any, like, the ferns and that kind of stuff?
Oh, no, no. So it's so bad. I was given a philodendron. I called her Phyllis. I even brought her over to the bar top in front of the camera to hang out with me during the shows before I had my co-host Mr. Sprout here. And I was like, oh, this is so great. My first house plant, my only house plant ever. And I was kind of anti house plant because I thought, why grow something that's not going to produce anything? Now there are some pluses to having house plants. It helps clean the air. There's a whole depression and anxiety aspect to it, and that. So we could get into it, but basically, I killed Phyllis. You guys, I don't know what I did to poor Phyllis, but when you're growing plants for vegetables or for a harvest, it's a different nutrients and water cycle, and I'm pretty sure I just drowned her and fed her too much or something. I didn't really feed her much nutrients, but water coming from the aquarium, it's got high rates of nitrites and nitrates in there. So that's probably what happened. But it was a sad story. I still have her corpse over there in a bucket. So and
Oh, rest
it's
in peace,
Robin, it's actually
Phyllis.
still green though. There's still a green like thing sticking out of there. I'm like, I don't know, maybe she's just dormant. We'll see what happens.
There's still hope. I had a yarrow plant that I had planted outdoors, and then all of a sudden it just died. And then the next growing season, I saw this little bit of green poking through the soil where it used to be. And I just dug that thing out, put it in a pot with some really healthy soil, and it's like back again. So you just never know. Just never know. So I did a little research, which I was really, I was wondering if the plants grown indoors versus outdoors were more nutrient dense. And shockingly, this is what I discovered. Nutrient density when it comes to aquaponics often show comparable or higher concentration of certain nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium because of constant nutrient availability. However, trace minerals such as iron, zinc, calcium, and magnesium may be lower unless supplemented, as fish waste doesn't always provide a full micronutrient profile. And then it also says that soil grown plants benefit from a microbial diversity and mineral complexity, which can lead to higher micronutrient content. But so when it does mention lettuce and basil as two of the plants that show higher antioxidant activity when grown indoors, by the way. So I thought that was really interesting. So I wanted to ask you, when it comes to minerals, how do you feed your plants those minerals that might be lacking? Do you buy the trace mineral drops that humans take, or is there a special thing that you can add to the soil? Not the soil, the water.
Right. Actually, I have this product called, I think it's called Equate. I'll have to go grab the bottle, but I just put some of that in, and it has the trace minerals in there, but it doesn't have your metals. It doesn't have copper and iron and zinc. It does have a bunch of the other minerals needed. So I've done some things that I don't know, it's more experimental, but I put some pennies. I put a bunch of pennies in the water, and I know pennies don't have very much copper, but I put them sort of in the flow of the water, not in the aquarium itself where they'll just sit on the bottom, but where water is running over them. And also I put some nails in there, which was probably in retrospect not the best idea. But I wanted to put some iron in there. You know, you can find little pieces of iron or something like that, and that's a natural way to do it. It may or may not be enough. Time will tell. But there are also liquid and actual things you can buy that will be like supplement for iron or copper. So I know there's probably more. There's the pH is another big thing that you have to deal with. But if that answers your question, there are ways to do it. Now in the soil indoors, I do have things like biochar, and I have worms all throughout the bed. I actually have worms and arthropods in the aquaponic system as well. They're in the clay pebbles all mixed in there, and the clay pebbles will even get kind of clogged up with worm castings even at times, which I need to grow more plants in the aquaponic system to draw the nutrients out. But at the same time, I do pump a lot of the water out into the other table. So, I'm replacing it. As I do that, it's just probably not as efficient as having plants in the system or more plants in the system. Right now, it's literally just a pineapple and peppers that are pulling nutrients out directly. So it's kind of on a lull right now.
So I know we're headed for we've obviously seen a big change in the climates and um, some extreme climates, especially this summer. It's been crazy. So I'm wondering, I think often about the future of growing food and like if it'll ever get to a point where everyone has to go indoor to grow. Like, do you ever think about that? Like, what role do you think indoor farming will play in the future of food?
Well, I've actually had Ed on my show down there in the listener. We've had this back and forth because um, I believe that at the very least, okay. Let me back up. I think it's going to be necessary to do both. And by that I mean the farm to table, or the nutrient loss that we're finding from shipping vegetables and shipping our food and nutrients all over the world, and then having it sitting on docks and going bad, and all of these things we're finding are just not good. And so the fresher the better, I believe. And if you live in Alaska and it's January, having like a dugout greenhouse, or and it doesn't have to be in your home to be quote indoors. The whole aspect of indoors is to be able to control the environment. And if you're in a place where maybe you don't have farmland, that's probably the best idea. And so we can look at countries right now that do this. I want to say Norway, Finland, possibly. They have some greenhouse, like really high tech, state of the art growing facilities, which are mainly for leafy greens, like I said, but there are successful ways to grow fruiting crops indoors. I have big plans one day. And maybe not with grow lights, but there are ways to get natural lighting indoors, and there's tons of ways to do it. I think, to your point, in the future we're going to have to do something like that for space travel. Fish, think of fish in water. I mean, what other animal is so ready for space other than fish? Like they're there. But and you can take you can well, let me back up. I think they're using bugs as well. They're thinking about bugs for space travel, which sounds sad, but yeah, aquaponics is a way to take the farm with you. It's a way to go to places where you can't grow things and grow things. So I actually would love one day to go all over the world and help them, build their own systems and give it a try. And I know they're doing it in different places like the Philippines, and you can do aquaponics outdoors. So I'm kind of doing a lot of different things here, but growing inside has its own benefits, whether you're using aquaponics or not. And then, of course, they're kind of separate things. But growing indoors can be done all sorts of ways. I mean, I've seen people, um, you know, build whole grow beds on the floor in their basements and things like that. Mine is up more like table height. I didn't want to have to be down on my knees, but it turns out I still have to do that anyway.
Um, so if you were to tell or to get someone started, like if anybody in the space said, Waylon, I want to get started, what is the first thing I should do to start growing indoors? Like an easy way for folks to kind of ease their way into it. Like what kind of equipment how much do you think it would cost? Because I'm definitely interested in this, and I'd like to know what a lot of people buy those towers, and I've seen them buy them, it doesn't work out, and then they just go into the landfill. So I'm just wondering how you feel about the towers or what kind of advice you'd give us.
Right. Yeah, that's great. I because the towers are a way of like using hydroponics, which I would say in retrospect, aquaponics, hydroponics, they're not for beginners, or at least not as easy for beginners. I would say in retrospect that using a small pot and going outside and scooping up a handful of dirt and putting it next to the windowsill, give that a try. I should have tried that. I'm all thinking I got to have lighting and I got to have all this and that, and just and actually I think of my mom now. She actually has the same green onions that I'm growing in my table, but she has them growing in a little cup of water sitting next to the windowsill. And it's she bought them from the
Wow.
store. They're just the green like leek onions, and you just put them in water and they'll keep growing, and she's getting some out of that. So you can start so small that you don't even notice, and then it just grows from there. No, no pun intended. But let me real quickly. I want to say thank you to everybody who's watching on the live stream. We did have a bit of an echo issue, but I think when I fixed it, they said it sounds better. We've got about 15 people watching us over there. So I appreciate you guys, but I wanted to, I meant to put a message out to send them all over here to the space. But for some reason today, Rumble decided to give me some technical issues. They said my email isn't verified. I have to verify my email. And I went to the email, no verification email, of course. There's nothing there. And I've been on Rumble for 4 years. So I don't know. It's some kind of glitch. And so I can't even comment or like my own Rumble video. In
Oh
other words,
no.
I'm trying to verbally tell everybody to come over here to the space, and would like to see you. And if you want to comment on the space, you can go to Robin's profile and go to the actual space there and comment directly. That's the only way you can do it. Robin, that's one way to fix it. I meant to tell you that earlier. It's not as easy as having that little bubble, but you can go right to her profile and comment on it.
Okay, yeah, let me pin the space to the top because right now you just see the graphic and a lot of people can't find it. So let me just pin it. Um, yes, because we're getting ready to close this out as an interview for a podcast that I do and open it up for everyone to participate. So just one moment. Let me just get that pinned to my profile. Okay, there it is. Um, yes. So, well, as I get ready to wrap up, I'd love you to share, where folks can find you, your handle, and maybe some resources that you've used that you recommend. I've pinned a couple of those things inside the space here on X, and I'll include them in the show notes. But yeah, so if you could just share some of your favorite resources, if they're different than the ones I've posted, and then also let us know where we can find you. I know, yeah. So go ahead. Thank you.
Great. No, I really appreciate the space, and I know I had a little bit of an issue getting it all set up, but we're good now. But yeah, I mean, if you guys want to find me on X, you can. I got to be honest, X is not a great place for podcasting so far, unless you already have an audience on X. So it's kind of not really the place where people watch me. But if you have Rumble, that's really the sort of place I push people to go watch from. I also have a locals community, which is a more of a private community where we hang out and we'll do like watch parties, and we just have some we relax. I do a bunch of giveaways and all that kind of stuff too, if that's what you're into. But we have a whole game show on Sundays. I mean, I have a schedule on my profile that you can look at to see when I do my shows. But I'll just explain why I do all the other shows, and that's because they are all connected. They all have a different angle of pushing the ideas of self sustainability. Now, they may not all be garden quote shows, but like yesterday, I did a review show, and my review show has a couple reasons. It gets me out of the house because I'm a disabled veteran. I don't have to go anywhere, and so it's like let me get out of the house once in a while, so I get to go check out local businesses and small and restaurants and events. But I also that connection with entrepreneurs and that same spark that you need to be a farmer or to be a homesteader. You have to have that same spark, and I even equate it to like musicians and artists because they are doing okay, maybe we'll say the successful ones. They are doing something that no one else told them to do. They're honing a craft and a skill that maybe isn't directly about survivability, but they are surviving by doing something that other people want. You know what I mean? And doing something that no one told them to do. And so entrepreneurship to me is very very similar to what you need to become a farmer. And there's a lot of farmer entrepreneurs. But then we have a whole talk show where we have an open panel on Thursdays, and I'd love for any of you to come. And you don't have to be on the camera. You can have the camera muted, but we want people to come up and share their experiences on common topics. And again, it's about sustainability because what is it? We cannot feed each other. We cannot live without being able to talk and converse with one another. And so that whole point of that show is not just to have topics, but to have topics that almost everybody would have some kind of experience with. And the point of that is to bring people together and give us more perspective on things. So like I can only live my life. I can't live Robin's life, but Robin telling me what she's experienced on something, that gives me just a teeny little piece of what she's experienced, what her life was. And so I what I bring that up for, and I know I'm rambling, guys, but it's such a passion of mine because not everyone can go off and live on their own in the mountain and do all their own things and just survive by themselves. Like we need each other in order to do this thing called survival. Like, yeah, you can go homestead by yourself, but you're going to need neighbors at some point or another. You're going to need to be able to have difficult conversations. We have fun conversations, difficult conversations. It gets political, it gets up and down. We've talked about chewing gum and hair and all sorts of very common sort of relatable topics, but make it in a way that it's like, oh, well, that's interesting that you have a different, perspective. Back to finishing it out. I'm sorry, but the best place to find me, you can always find me on X. And then when you watch my show, if you watch my show, you'll hear me, talk about where else to go. But one resource I'll give you, Robin, and everybody, this is a really nice website that I'm an affiliate for. It's called Garden Savvy, gardensavvy.com. I don't know how to link it really quickly, but it is a garden community, basically like a Facebook for gardeners, but they also have an AI that's only for gardening, and they have a hortisketch, which is a whole section where you can map out the above ground view or top view of your whole garden setup, the spacing. It has notes, and it saves all of the, like, what month it is. It saves all of the data so that you can look at it year over year and actually really hone in what you're doing. I've been challenged to create something for an indoor garden because all of their graphics are for outside. So I'm working on it. But anyway, it's a really good like little community to join. It's a whole other website. It's away from all of the big social media sites, but that's a good resource. But all the other ones that you put in there were great, and you can really just I gotta say this, guys. You could read 100 books on growing lettuce, and until you do it, you're just not going to know. It's just going to be a question mark. So I wouldn't bog yourself down on reading so much information. I also wouldn't go out and go overboard on growing too many things at once and spending tons of money on it before you really get into it, because it may not be something that you like doing. And you might find out that I would just rather help my neighbor who has a garden out a little bit more, and instead of doing it myself. You might just find that out. But again, thank you for the space, Robin, and thanks everybody who's listening.
Thank you so much. This has just been such a great conversation. I really appreciate your time, and I know everyone in the space here did too. And I'm just so excited to share it, on other platforms. Um, what was I? There was something else I was going to say. I was thinking about when you're talking about community building, community, how important that is. And I've often thought about when things get bad, which, I know we try to shy away from politics, but it just does feel like we're heading towards something. And I don't even really know how to frame this, but yeah, I think that quite possibly we're definitely going to need each other, but we're also going to need to learn as many different skills when it comes to self-sufficiency as possible. And I kind of look at hydroponics as something I've always wanted to try. I'm sorry, aquaponics is something that I've wanted to do just to be more prepared for what may be coming down the pike. Um, just what if you can't leave your house for some reason, right? So that's another aspect of it that I think just makes it even more important. Um, well, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to close this out now and bring some folks up. Thank you for joining me. And you know what? Can you also give me your affiliate link? Do you know it by heart for Garden Savvy? Because by the way, I'm a member of that community. I don't log in enough though, but I do love the interface, and some of the people that I've followed on YouTube have communities there. So I'd love to share your affiliate link for that. So no, go ahead. Go ahead, Waylon.
I actually don't have it offhand. No one's asked me for it yet, so I kind of wasn't using it for a little while, and now recently I've incorporated it into my Monday show, which is my main like garden show, showing what I'm growing and stuff. I do a little segment on Mondays now where we go over there. I pull it on screen, and we kind of go down the community and see what the other people are posting, and just kind of incorporate it into the show, because the show's it's not supposed to be about me and my stuff, but that's kind of the only content I have every week. I try to show off what other people are growing, and it's about making it more popular and making it more fun and hip and cool, because we don't have the right things in our culture all the time. Sometimes things get popularized that don't necessarily need to be there. And if we consciously make things popular that we do need, like growing a little bit of your own food, and make it more fun and funny, like there's comedy, there's humor, there's tragedy, all of that in farming, and so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make it more relatable to every person, but yeah, I can get you that affiliate link. We should hook up in there for sure, because I think you can like get friends inside there and all that good stuff.
That sounds fantastic. Yeah, because people are often saying that they don't like that their feeds, on social media are so stressful sometimes. We see things pop up that we really don't want to have to look at, especially on X. And I do find though that the things that you look at, it's like the things you focus on, you get more of in life. Well, it's the same way with social media. So I've kind of gotten my feed to be probably about 80% or 90% like farmers, gardeners, homesteaders, and it just brings me so much joy. Well, with Garden Savvy, that like it's just sad that it hasn't taken off more, because it really is the Facebook of growing, right? So if you all want to just see inspiring things and learn from other people, that is a really great place to be. So please do send me the link, and I'll put it not only in the comments underneath this X space, I'll also include it in the podcast notes. So, well, thank you again, Waylon, and I'm looking forward to following you more and as you go along and learn more and grow. So, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. All right, everybody. So excited. So I know that Tico had his hand up for a while, so I'm going to open it up for you first, and then we'll go. Oh, Waylon, go ahead. I see your hand
Is my
up.
hand up? I don't think it's not up on my side.
Okay. All right. So I see Amy's hand, and then I know Tico had his hand up for a while. So we'll start with Tico and then go to Amy. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. Great interview. Waylon, great job on growing the brand. I've seen it. Your authenticity shines. So continue to do what you're doing because you're a testament to the market or the industry. And I definitely commend you on being a person who was never in it and then submerged yourself with it. And I can even see the learning curve and the growth. So keep doing it. Kudos to that. Um, I wanted to ask you about your water and just talk to the audience about pH and how perhaps your aquaponics system pH requirement would be different than your hydroponic system.
Great question, because the fish definitely require or they like a different pH than the plants do, and that can be a tough balance. Now, I found for quite a long time it was really difficult for me to keep my pH down. It kept going up too high until I found a little trick. And I'll give you all like a shortcut before you even start aquaponics. Is get a little piece of driftwood. I have a couple of good sized pieces of driftwood in the aquarium, but I haven't had to check my pH in weeks. Every time I check it, it looks fine. And so I don't even really check it anymore, which is insane because you think about, I don't know, maybe 50 to 100 guppies inside that aquarium. There's other fish too. I have some algae eaters and there were some shrimp too as well, and I think some snails. But all of that stuff is creating waste, and that makes the pH rise. And so the best thing I found was driftwood. It was crazy.
Excellent. Amy.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Amy.
Oh, yes, Amy. I was actually holding off because I couldn't hear you, and I thought it was just me. Can you go down and come back up?
Definitely thank you everybody that has come to hang out today. I mean, think about this as a every person topic. This is like I get so hung up on the fact that you have a sort of a niche. People get stuck in this kind of niche. I'm a gardener, or I'm not. Oh, I'm not into that. I just go to the grocery store and get my food. Well, it's for every person. Anyway, I see Amy back. Go ahead, Amy.
Hey, can you hear me now?
I can. Go ahead.
Okay, I was saying thank you so much for being here, and I want to go back to a couple of things. So you had said, your mom gets the clippings, like the green onions and whatever, from the store and has them in a pot or a jar, whatever, in the windowsill. So I've tried this several times, and I have failed every single time. Even in my pinned post, I tried it with like a large leaf lettuce. It started to grow, and then, bam! I don't know, mold, and it just got really nasty. I mean, somebody like me who can't do this in a windowsill on a very small scale, really, on a larger scale like you have, does that happen frequently, or, how does that work? Because literally every time I go to the store and I get, all these things that people say you can regrow, it never ever works for me. I don't know. I mean, I am using tap water. Like, I know there's so many other variables, but um, is that a frequent issue with the hydro or aquaponics?
Yes. So this is an issue with indoor growing in general. And that's why I said earlier, I spoke about basements having ups and downs. The only positive that the basement has is that you can get messy in the basement and not worry too much about it. Like, I can flood it I flooded the basement a couple of times when I was filling up buckets of water and not paying attention and all that kind of stuff. So, but when it comes to mold in general, if that's mainly your issue, you have to have I can tell you that there's probably not enough airflow in that area, and that's probably the main issue. But when it comes to getting things from the store, you're going to have a hit or miss all the time. Like, it took me, I think, 3 pineapples before I got a store-bought pineapple to actually root. And there's different methods, but you can't beat yourself up about that, because as many people will tell you, the store bought food has a lot of problems with it. We don't have to go down that path, but they literally make a lot of stuff on purpose so that it won't reproduce. There's a lot of things where they don't want you to be doing that, honestly. So I have tried, I think the green onions I've tried a few times before I finally got them to flower. The ones I have now actually flowered to make more seed. As far as my mom's though, they literally, she just has a little cup of water. It's clear cup too, sitting next to the light, and I think she might swish it around here and there. I mean, you might want to just kind of, get the water some motion, make sure there's no like bugs or anything in there. But yeah, she just takes it from the store. She doesn't, it's not clippings. They actually have the bulb on the bottom with some roots, and you just put them right into some water. I don't know if she puts anything else in nutrient wise, but probably not. I mean, you're not going to hold on to them that long unless you're doing what I'm doing, which is trying to get them fully to seed, if that helps, Amy. And you can always hit me in the DMs if you have any questions, of course.
So if you guys just want to jump in, we don't need to do hands. We have such a small group here. So just go ahead and jump in if you have anything you want to say. I did just share a link to a Google Doc that I created. It has all of the links that I shared in the comments that you probably all can't see, just for some books to get started reading, some YouTube channels. And once I get Waylon's affiliate link for Garden Savvy, I'll add that to the document as well. I'm going to post that to the nest. And if y'all don't have, if I'm finding that, you guys don't have anything you want to add to the conversation, we'll just be wrapping up. So, last call for folks to come on up.
I got a couple questions, if that's okay.
Of course.
I was late to the party as usual. So I kind of missed, I'm interested in the winter growing for up here in Canada, and the aquaponics has always kind of interested me. I don't really care for hydroponics just because the food tastes like water. But I heard you mention some of the fish you had. Where do you actually get the fish, I guess, and how big are they when you start? I'm sorry if you've covered this already. I missed the beginning of the space.
No, it's a good question, because we were talking about a lot of methods on for beginners, or information for beginners. And I'll be honest, I don't have fish yet that are big enough to be edible. But to answer your question, I mean, any pet store here in America or in the US, we have pet stores that have lots of tropical fish and freshwater tropical fish. And what I did was I was asking which fish would breed, because not all the fish that are at the pet store are going to be able to breed because of whatever breeding practices and how they work. But there are fish like guppies, and I don't even know if goldfish from the pet store will breed. But if I was to get a bulk fish, I would have to go to, say, a fishery or somewhere else. Now you have to be careful because I plan to be, I'm working towards commercial. Like, I have my business and I'm starting with microgreens, but I will be commercially using aquaponics. Now, if you want to commercially sell the fish, you have to be careful because not all fish can be sold commercially. And that's at least in the US. I don't know about in Canada. But when you start, I mean, when you get the fish from the pet store, you're going to get, usually young, but not babies. And if you can get the kind of fish that breed, then eventually they'll take off. Especially, and I'll give you some more information on that. I had guppies for like a year or two before I got them to breed, and that's because I wasn't dialing in their environment well enough. And the final thing that I needed for them to start breeding, which I'm sure there's a list of things that I gave them before that, the proper uh, lighting and water and all that. But the um, heat, I had to have a heater in there. Now the aquarium's not sitting on the ground, so I thought it wouldn't be a big deal. But the water does get pretty cold, so I actually got a heater put in there, and they started to breed. So if that helps you any, I mean, I don't know what kind of fish you're thinking about, but just the pet store fish that breed, and you can even do it more fun. You can buy all sorts of fun different types of fish that angel fish, and heck, get you a little shark in there or something just for fun, because if it's a home grow and you have an aquarium that's a visual thing, you can look inside, versus a fish stock tank, which I have as well, which I plan to put bigger fish in. But once I have that, you're not gonna have the fun, like, viewing of the fish. Like, if you have kids like the fish tank. I never had them as a pet, but you can sort of incorporate both of those things, especially like a small home grow. You could have your fish be working fish, but also be pets, and the kids can like them, and you can have variety in there as well. I have a plan to have a secondary aquarium with a crab that would eat the guppies as they overproduce, which I haven't gotten to that point yet. But I thought, well, if they do make too many, then I could have a separate system, with a carnivore in there, and taking them out. So I don't know if that helps you, brother. Yeah, you can just go to any pet store.
No, that's actually perfect. I didn't even think of a pet store. I was just thinking I got a trout farm sort of near me, and that was one I was thinking of. But then, yeah, pet store makes a lot of sense. I never, yeah, still working on my coffee, so I'm waking up.
I'll tell you one better. If you know anybody that's a fisher, that fishes, you could. It depends on how intimate you are with it in your house. If it's like, if it's a far away room down in the basement, it's probably safer than if you have it all around people more. But you could get wild fish, and of course you got to watch for things like disease, and there's other issues with that. But I know people that will get like wild fish, and keep them in a stock tank and feed them and let them get bigger, and you could kind of incorporate that into the system. For instance, I would love to get bluegill. My One of my plans is to get some bluegill that I can grow to. I mean, they get really big. A lot of us as kids would catch bluegill with our families, and have little fish fries with these tiny little bluegill. But if you have them in captivity, they get much bigger, and like 5 to 10 pounds even. The issue though is that you cannot sell them commercially. So I got stopped on that because I thought it would be kind of a unique fish to offer, but you have to be careful with the laws, I guess. Yeah, you could also just go catch them too. You could get a turtle. You could put a turtle in the water and not even have fish, and still have an aquaponic system. You could use, like I said, turtles or shrimp, or really anything freshwater almost would do it.
Perfect. No, that's very helpful. Also, that garden mapping, was that put up in the nest yet? I'm very interested in that too.
Yes, it's called the Garden Hortisketch, and that's inside of the Garden Savvy. And I will say that I have to go through my email and try to find that link, and I do want to make sure that it's still active. But anybody that decides that they may want to join, please get a hold of me so we can get you that $5 off. It's a yearly membership if you decide to join, and then that way it also, even if you're not worried about the $5 off, it helps get make them see that I'm out here talking about them. Give me a little something. But yeah, check it out if you want, Ted, and if you need any help, I'm always around.
Perfect. Thank you, Waylon. Much appreciated.
Come on,
I
Ed.
guess
What
I
do you
got
got for me?
all right. On the fish thing, I was kind of thinking because I live in more northern area, and a lot of our lakes and ponds have bullhead, which is like a little more smaller type of catfish. And I know they're good bottom feeders. So, another question I had, could the rock material, like rock dust, small particle rock, to help bring minerals in as a thought? But my overall thought is, I know, be very interesting to combine the concepts in regenerative agriculture with indoor growing in general, whether it be in pots or aquaponics or hydroponics. Just bring the principles in, and especially for small scale where you're integrated, the same as the concept in regenerative is very integrated, because a lot of the large scale, like hydroponics and everything, they're such a huge monoculture. The way they look at things, I think, is different than we could in small scale. And the next thing that could really help is, for the first time in regenerative agriculture, we now have an AI platform that was fed, good material, good data, good knowledge, of regenerative agriculture. And since the principles of regenerative with nature are all common no matter where you are, it's just plugging in your context. And of course, with indoor, you have less variation. You still have variation, but you have less. But it's looking, because it's only been released for a little while and it's sort of still in a beta phase. But, I think if in the future, AI could be really beneficial, especially when it's designed right, like Field Lark is. It's, got some good concepts of, like, why do you have a problem? Not just telling you to do this or do that, to help understand, especially for beginners, that are complicated. So, um, I don't, if the sort of the regenerative ag community and the indoor community, I have noticed that in the indoor cannabis industry, they very much connect with regenerative principles, with understanding the microbiology and the nutrition of the plant. So, I think combining, um, the knowledge from outdoors, indoors in a regenerative type sense instead of just the monoculture, strictly chemical sense, probably has a lot of potential for the future. And it would just be the indoor community, putting the data and knowledge together and starting to feed a system, a customized system, to get that going. It may even be able to draw on, um, what knowledge in this new AI for regenerative agriculture is. I don't know if John Kemp's thought about that or not, but, it seems like it could be really helpful for the future because, growing is very complicated. And that's what's kind of fun about it. It's a constant learning thing. And, we've learned so much in just like the last 5 or 10 years. And now getting all that knowledge in a way that people can really access it, um, is using technology and to make it work. So I'll land it there.
Ed, yeah, thanks for coming, man. Yeah, I totally agree with this thought of regenerative agriculture meeting this fad of indoors. I don't want to call it a fad, I guess. Of this resurgence, I guess, of indoor growing, because we've had greenhouses for years, and I think it just hasn't evolved until recently, where we're combining methods. One of the biggest things that I push is that there are things that from the past and things, current technologies that need to be combined that haven't yet. One of my areas that I try to innovate is in that exact thing. How can we combine things that are beneficial? And with growing specifically, everything I do indoors is with that in mind, with the organic method in mind, but also with that thought of regenerative ag. Because, for instance, this table that I have, the grow table, there's about 6 to 8 inches of soil in there, and it's full of worms and arthropods. And I take my scraps and food waste, other than things that have like sauces or cheese or bread or meat. Like, I can't put that kind of stuff in there. I have seen a composter that does that stuff, but that's another story. But anyway, I put everything back into the table, and all of the waste from the plants that I have in the table, it all goes back in, and I bury it all in there. It's not a perfect regenerative system, because there's always factors to take into consideration, like the fact that it has a pond liner, and a pond liner is plastic, and it worries me. That kind of thing worries me. Even though it's a thick plastic, we've been using pond liners for longer than we have been worried about plastic. Therefore, I'm a little bit more worried about anything that we've been using, PVC pipe, and all of this stuff that I use indoors kind of worries me in that respect. So I guess we need more data there. But to what you said about catfish are known as kind of a dirtier bottom feeding fish. I don't know that it would be good in aquaponics, though, because I'd have to look into it. But one of the issues with aquaponics is the fish that are okay. One being around a lot of other fish. So there's different methods of this. People will sometimes take the lesser approach, where they have a larger container with less fish. But the more popular method, which I think is wrong, is where they will just cram so many fish in one area, and to try to create a lot of waste, which is just it's terrible. You want the fish to be happy, but I don't know about the temperature range that catfish can handle. That might be where it stops, because you see a lot of tilapia, and I want to say cod. I'm not sure, but a tilapia is the most popular, because that fish is so like hard. Like, it can take such a drop in temperature and range. The other thing I'd be worried about with catfish is the stingers, depending on the type of catfish. I was stung as a kid, so I'm just deathly afraid. No, I'm not deathly afraid of catfish, but I definitely would be somewhat concerned about the stingers. I don't know much about them, though. So, but yeah, there's probably so many different types of fish we could do. You just have to be very dialed in on their pH and their temperature range and all of those things. It would be hard to say. I mean, I think you could do bass, probably. That's a pretty popular fish. I would love to do bluegill. I actually saw someone that did it once. So a lot of what I do is like, okay, this guy over here did this successfully, so at least I know that's doable, or that fish is usable. But I've also seen where you can bring in fish, no matter from whatever source it is, and they might have a disease that you can't see. So I should have brought this up during the interview, but definitely quarantine your fish. If you decide to bring new fish in to your population, you have to quarantine those for a week or two, because I literally saw a guy lose like 3,000 fish and all the plants, because he introduced fish into his very large commercial system and killed everything because the fish had a disease. And so there's a lot of lessons to be learned from other people's mistakes. And again, that's why I do the show.
Rainbow trout too. They produce a lot of waste. So there are lots of good nutrients.
Yeah, we had many decades ago, tilapia operations in my area, early on ones. And I'm not sure if I know one of them went out, but I'm not sure if the other one's still going or not. And I guess one other thought is I sure wish that, we get so much bagged product, and I just call it product, for growing mediums and stuff, and bag compost and all this sort of stuff. And just like with our food, I wish it was better labeled. What's really in it? What do I need to be concerned about? What are the minerals and all the nutrients really in it? It just isn't really, and I don't know of one that really is good. But I think that would help a lot too, because I know I've pretty much given up. I got some really rare couple of varieties of tomato seeds a few years ago, and it was the winter, and so my ground was frozen. I had nothing really, and I was covered with snow, and so I went and just bought some seed starter, and there was obviously something not good in it because my seedling came up, and about 2 or 3 days later, they just went belly up, and and it's just really frustrating. And I mean, I've heard so many stories of people buying bag soils and stuff, and just, you know, one of my buddies got some, and I went over to visit him, and he opened up the bag, and it just about killed me. It just about killed both of us. I don't know what it was, but I mean, and they don't really label very well. And, if there was some conscientious company that really helped out on that, start a new trend to really benefit, so things could be a little better designed for ease for, if you're growing indoors and you're growing greens, there's no reason why they couldn't make a product that was, you know, base ingredient friendly, and then whatever minerals are added, or maybe even just have mineral additives, sort of like is happening in regenerative agriculture, like with Advancing Eco Ag and some of the other companies that are really trying to produce products that actually work, instead of the sort of snake oil and, sort of ground pallet mulch and all that sort of stuff. So I'll end it there.
Ed, yeah, that's a great point. There are so many products. As some of you know, I am a disabled veteran. I do grow cannabis medically. And getting into that world, you have this sort of mixture, and that's one of the reasons that I, you know, am in both worlds. Like I want to bring that along with me, because that world is where the proverbial rubber meets the road, if you will, when it comes to uh, the culture and the idea of trying to be a little more sustainable. And it's funny because I call myself the gateway drug to self-sustainability, because I'm in there going, oh yeah, you're growing your own cannabis. I see. Have you thought about maybe growing a little lettuce on the side? And kind of like opening people's minds up a little bit to the possibilities. But back to my point, like you see this sort of competition of which person's genetics are better, which person's soil is better, which person's nutrients is better, and you have this back and forth of like egos, and you have this whole kind of world, this whole celebrity world within these companies. But I will say this: the people that I found products to be better are the people that are more more front facing, more their face is out there. They're on videos. They're out there showing you their product. Soil specifically, I know a man named the Soil King. He's a great guy. He's mostly sort of in the cannabis world, but his soil is not specifically cannabis soil. It's just a great growing medium, and I have it right here. It's called Big Roots. It's designed for growers by growers, and I like him. I met him a few times, so like I've got that rapport with him. And there's a lot of sort of faceless companies out there, and it's like grow bigger of this, and they just have the marketing down, but you don't have that personable connection. And I would say with social media, guys, there's no reason that we can't all be sort of following a person that we like in that space, whether that's nutrients or lighting or genetics. or follow several people. Like Robin said, she's got most of her feed down to a lot of different farmers. And when you get into those communities, you're going to find people that will give you testimonials on products and like, hey, this was really good product, and you're going to feel a little bit more better about trying that product, especially if you like that person, trust that person, however you want to cut it. But you also have to be okay with failure. Like if I talk to Ed and he says, hey, this soil is the best, and I try it, and then maybe it's not for me, maybe I find out it's not the best, maybe I didn't like it as much as I wanted to, but at least I took a friend's recommendation versus just trying random stuff. Like there's a lot of commercial stuff out there that's just not worth trying, and especially if you want to be organic, you got to be really careful. That is such a different topic, but there is a point beyond organic, which they call pharmaceutical grade. A lot of us would be afraid to use something they call pharmaceutical grade because you think, oh, it's a drug or it's got chemicals, but it's actually cleaner than organic. It doesn't necessarily mean it has all the organic, it doesn't have all the bio nutrients in there, whatever that is. But when it says pharmaceutical grade, it doesn't mean that it's non-organic, but it's such a weird phraseology. Maybe Ed knows a little bit more about it, but I think that the terminology, to your point, Ed, on these packaging, on our food and our grow equipment and stuff like that, it's confusing. And if you're not in a little bit of a community where you can ask a few people and, hey, what is it you did and what is it you did, and you get like a different perspectives, like I was saying earlier, and then boom, you've got an idea where to start. See, um, I don't listen to someone say this is how I did it and I do it exactly the way they do it. I just take that with okay, this is how they did it, and I'm going to work off of that, if that makes sense. And so if somebody recommends something to me, a soil or whatever, I'm not going to get too upset if I don't like it. But if I think they're doing really well, there's somebody posting pictures of their grow, there's somebody, maybe commercially growing, then, I might take it with a little bit more weight. But to your point earlier about monoculture, that was one of the saddest things I found out when I first started growing was uh, that farmers, commercial farmers, they more than likely don't have a little garden with veggies and growing all their own food. They're more than likely, most times, unless that the farmer's wife has a garden, they just have whatever 10,000 acres of corn. I'm in Illinois, so it's just like that's all they have. And that if you ask that farmer about potatoes or something, like he has no idea. And that to me is a little scary. Like our farmers are thought of as plant people. Like I said earlier, they're thought of as more knowledgeable, survival and all of these different things. And the truth is, they may not be. A lot of times, the farmhouse is actually not the farmer living in it. So it's rented out to someone else, and the farmer lives in some big complex down the road because he's got lots of money. Not every farmer, but farmers that have lots of money, they don't typically live right next to their field anymore. And there's kind of been becoming a disconnect there. But to your point about regenerative ag, that is becoming more uh, mainstream, or more not just cool and hip, but more more desirable, and more respected as well. And as you can flex, it's a flex, right? Hey, my farm is regenerative, all organic or whatever. Organic is not even a flex anymore because of the loopholes and the different stuff that you can look at for the certified label. I don't. That's another story, but yeah, just having that flex of saying that I'm actually helping the land and not just taking from it. We played a game on my game show last month that was more, it was like a Jeopardy, but I call it the Indoor Farmers Almanac. Of course, we're moving on to a different game this month, but I make up random games because I like to have a little bit of creative outlet. But the Indoor Farmers Almanac, we talked about a bunch of things. One of the categories is everybody has to eat, and I brought up what type of diet destroys the most ecology and the most wildlife. Does anybody know? What would be your guess, Robin?
Maybe vegan?
You got it. You got it. Vegan, vegetarian. Those types of diets actually they have to clear more farmland, and then when you clear farmland, you have monocultures. You end up with much less variety of local wildlife, bacteria, all of the micronutrients, all of that stuff is then diminished, and like whole ecosystems are just wiped out just so that people can eat more vegetables, which I think it's just a big fallacy. And so many people I've met say that they don't want to eat anything with a face and this and that, but yet they're it's a misconception, I should say. And no offense to those that do, just be aware that they're not giving you that information, that you actually end up killing more animals by doing it than not. So if that's your only
Yes,
reason, go ahead.
I was shocked to find out that almond milk, for example, has a very high environmental cost. A single glass of almond milk it's like 30 to 50 gallons of water. So it requires a lot of energy to produce it. You would not expect that at all.
Yeah, I actually went on I tried to go to some almond milk for a short time, and then I found out it wasn't not as good for you as we think, and also not as easy to produce, like you said. Yeah, there's a whole bunch
Yeah.
of little fallacies out there that I've learned since getting into all this, like how peanuts aren't really, it's not really a good source of like protein. It's not like an actual nut. It's not really that good for you.
Yeah, peanuts are not nuts, folks. I found that one out too. They're considered beans or some kind of I don't know. Yeah, like in the bean family, correct?
Yeah, it's a
They're a Lego.
legume. Yeah, you got it right.
Legume. Sorry, that's the word. So
Soybeans
I know.
also are not the best for the soil either. So, and of course, that's what they use for protein isolates. That's what they're trying to push for the number one thing to replace meat is. And of course, in your aquaponics, I mean, what are you doing? You're integrating livestock in the same way in regenerative does in plant production. You're just using fish as the livestock instead of cows or sheep or chickens. And we know that when you have a crop farm and you integrate the livestock into it, it just does magic all of a sudden to the soil health.
I think about it too like this. Both both water and soil, I could actually produce an excess of both of these things. If I in a commercial sense, using rainwater collection and composting, and eventually it'll be a separate building at this point. Like I have plans. Like, guys, I was pretty, I guess, aimless. I had After I got home from overseas, I had about 10 years where I just had no self-worth. I had no, and don't, I'm not looking for accolades here, but I had like no thought of what I could do for my life. I literally didn't I wasn't I didn't want to harm myself, but I also didn't think I had any value, if that makes sense, until I started to think of this. And not to get too religious, but I feel like this calling has been given to me by someone else, namely, my God. And I don't feel like I feel like I'm just driving the ship. I have this, and I've been given this sort of plan for the rest of my life, which is really insane to think about, because up to that point I was just like floating around without a without a point to being. And now I know what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life, which it's kind of is very freeing. It's a very freeing thing, but also really weird. It's like, oh well, no matter what I do, I know where I'm going. And I may take different stops along the way, but there will never be a reason for me to quit learning what I'm doing. There will never be a reason for it. No matter whether things get good, things get bad, it doesn't matter. Being a little more self-reliant is always going to be better than not. I mean, we outsource so much now that like we don't even know how to take care of ourselves anymore. And so with a lot of turmoil going on with people maybe losing benefits, or maybe, which we don't need to go down that road, but like I think somebody said that they're talking about getting rid of the SNAP benefits. And guys, they're that stuff isn't that great for us anyway. We already know that feeding the bears does what? It makes the bears not able to feed themselves anymore or take care of themselves anymore. And so we're promoting the wrong stuff for so long that now we're dependent on it. And that's why I'm pushing all these ideas, because it's like everybody has to eat. So why is everyone not thinking a little bit more about it? Just a pinky toes worth of thought into it. And my main point about it, though, was like the food in the grocery store, is so questionable now. And yes, I still buy food in the grocery store, but you can't think of it like, oh, they're taking away money from my food. They're just they're just forcing you to realize that you can't rely on somebody else to take care of you and your family and your needs. It's never been that way, and it's unusual to have such an abundance that we can just have people living their whole lives and just not without an aim, without a care. It's sad, but yeah, I'm glad I have an aim at least. And so come along with me, guys. I'm done rambling. Sorry, Robin. Go ahead.
Oh my goodness, please don't apologize at all. That's what we're here for. Like, I love this. Um, Tico, you don't have to raise your hand, just jump in.
I appreciate that, Robin. Yeah, Waylon, we become representatives of nature, and that is a huge driver of purpose, I think, for a lot of us, because we've seen over our lifetimes how destructive our models actually have become. And more often than not, it becomes the scale, right? So I think when we start at the small scale, like you're advocating, the whole start small, think big, we can recognize the natural process that we're buying into, kind of like the way a seed would germinate into perhaps a sapling and then a tree one day that, grows into shade. So if we do take that mindset, which I call, I think everybody's heard me say it enough. It's an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset. And if we switch that catalyst, which I appreciate the fact that you brought up cannabis, because nobody wants to give cannabis or the people who advocated for cannabis any credit. And the reason why they don't want to do that is because then they would have to actually share part of the pie. So what happened is the cannabis people were raising the standard. They were raising the benchmark. And you mentioned Patrick specifically, because I would consider him a colleague. I've known him for a long time. The difference in that front facing model that he's proposing or pushing is his own experience on the formulation or the inputs that he's using for his brand or his bag. So what does that mean? It means, like Ed said, is he's not using pallet waste that's being ground up. He's not using industrial municipal waste that's coated in contamination. He's really trying to advocate for that clean, would be the term, right? Clean green certified. Or in this case, he's even targeting heavy metals, which is a big call it incentive for cannabis growers, because they get tested on heavy metals. So we can see yet again, the cannabis people are raising the standard and the benchmark because they're required to test for heavy metals in order to sell or market their product, which I want everybody to realize, if we did that in the food industry, we would all be starving, right? And then that would force us to actually consider what Waylon is really advocating, which is we need to grow more of our own. We need to stop outsourcing it to people who clearly don't have our best interests in mind. And I think overall is the incentive structure that cannabis ends up providing is value. Because I've seen people in the cannabis industry that a pound of their product used to be as valuable as an ounce of gold decades ago, let's say, and today that pound is worth 95% less, and they're growing more cannabis, which is in itself a testimony to their spirit, right? So you're like, hey, you're getting 95% less money for this product than you were when it was illegal, but you're still growing it. That that kind of demonstrates the value of freedom, which is really what it all comes down to. Is we want more freedom to know what's in the products, to know how it's grown, which is why you see the people who are doing the best, they're talking about their process and how it's grown versus their outcome or their market. And I've seen personally billion-dollar publicly traded companies starting to adopt these basic fundamental principles because they're becoming more exposed to the cannabis industry. And I think that component is sometimes it's under recognized or whatever. Like you said, we don't need credit. But what we really want to try to consider is if we allow people to grow cannabis like yourself, Waylon, or anybody out there, whether it's in a state or a country, what we're going to end up doing is getting healthier, more nutrient dense food because more of those people are going to start to become aware of regenerative agriculture, biology, grow your own. These are all markets that are growing. So thanks for giving me the mic. Keep up what you're doing. And yeah, I really appreciate this conversation, Robin.
Yeah, look, I appreciate what you said, but I gotta say, I'll maybe a slight pushback here on the cannabis. Just from the last 3 years, I saw such a change in that world, and I think partly it's because of how popular it is. And I don't mean to say that it's the most used plant in the world, but it probably, I would say it's really quite up there when it comes to the culture and pop culture and stuff. And so that is, I think, to your point, that is what's driving the quality. So we had for years we had so many large growers, and we still do in the cannabis world, where they don't use the best practices. It's not the most organic product. It's they're using all the stuff that we don't like about big ag, and they come out with an inferior product. But then you have the home grower or the craft grower, which is legal in some states to have those licenses to grow commercially at a small scale. Then you have people who are taking such attention to detail and such pride in their plants. Maybe they have fewer plants, but yet they can really spend much more time on each one, and then they can go to these competitions. We have, and I know in the farming world there's competitions. There's competitions on how big a tomato you got and how big of this and that. But if you go in the cannabis world, the competition is going to show, and I guess it's very similar. You're going to have like taste and I don't know if they test nutrients at farm shows, but they test the THC levels, they test the different levels of cannabinoids, and that's all for competition. And so, what's that going to do? That's going to drive a better product. And I think through competition, we get people exposed for doing things that maybe are less than healthy for us. And the problem is, you'll always have a market for that less healthy stuff because it's going to be cheaper. No matter if you're talking about food, cannabis, or even grow supplies, you have cheaper nutrients, cheaper stuff, and people might have to get it because that's all they can afford, unfortunately. But yeah, I hope that answers what you were talking about.
Yeah, I think the
Well,
microbrewery beer industry is a great example of that because that was almost non-existent and 20 something years ago, and now it's huge. And I've been involved with the coffee movement. It was all Maxwell House and Folgers and all that, and then a bunch of roasters decided and cafes decided to work directly with farmers and help them grow and process better and cleaner and more quality and roasting better. I worked on developing an algorithm for roasting that's used around the world now. And I mean, that movement really has boomed. So I think there's hope, of decentralization a bit and not settling. I mean, it's happening in chocolate. That's another area that's pretty interesting. A lot of your hot sauces and relishes and all that have changed. So there's definitely interest in sort of a decentralized, getting back to some quality and grown friendly for the environment and the water and the air. And so getting the chemicals out, stuff that's more fresh, all the things that we talk about all the time.
You're right, Ed. It's actually such an opportunity right now. It's an intense time for opportunity for companies, or for new companies to start. And so, like Johnny, I see him and the listeners there. What's up, Johnny? The conversations we have about the what's in our food all the time. Looking at just the one example of like what was it? Was it Fruit Loops or something where they're looking at what it looks like in Europe versus what it looks like here. You know, yeah, maybe not the same vibrant colors, but looking at the ingredients differences. Now, what's going to happen, at least in my opinion, the big companies that are in America that are going, they're going to, it's going to take them more time to convert their systems back over to doing things right or the way that we want them done, more transparency on ingredients and better ingredients, just like other countries are already doing, especially with, very common products that we can, make a list of. But what's going to be faster, or at least where the opportunity comes in, are new small companies, small businesses doing it the right way from the beginning that can just get huge right off the bat. Now, I do see I go to a lot of these events with a whole bunch of vendors, and I see some people that are still using what they'll do is they'll take candy or something that's already a thing and then they can incorporate it into their product and then sell it. And I'm like, well, you're still taking that product that we know of is in the stores and not good for us. So but I also see a lot of alternative products coming up. Like I've been switching over all my cleaning products to more sustainable, healthy, you know different products. And food for sure is going to be like, it's going to be a race. It's going to be a race, whether new companies replace the old companies that just don't want to do it the right way, or whether they can get their act together and actually, get us a product that we deserve. Like I've talked about it so many times, but brand recognition is such a terrible thing because some of us grew up with, say, like Kraft macaroni and cheese. Well, it's not the same even from when I was a kid, let alone when it was first invented. So we can't think of the brand as never, like, as this sort of monolith never changing. It's the same as when I was a kid. No, they change the formulas on this stuff over time, whether you're talking about vaccines or food or even nutrients from a company that you really like, that you get your growing equipment from. And I really love that company. I've been with them for 20 years. Well, I'm sorry, they've probably changed their formula at some point. You don't always get alerted of that either.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I was shocked when I found out that, well, Annie's Homegrown was taken over by General Mills. I think Honest Tea was bought by Coca-Cola. Cashy Kellogg's, Stonyfield Farm, I don't forget the name of theirs, but, and Cascadia Farm, which I used to love, General Mills. So it's really hard to believe that they're holding to the same standards as these companies did when they first, went out the gate. And that's happening a lot.
Robin, the purpose there is market share and distribution. Because at the end of the day, what happened is before they consolidated or purchased an Annie's or any of the other ones, Annie's was actually taking market share from their product line. And you will even see that, you guys, that the retailers are, call it, white labeling their own to remove the strength of the brand. So now a lot of the power can even become in the retailer. Sprouts is a perfect example of that, which Sprouts is the fastest growing retail grocery store in the country right now. And the key to those models is growth. And to be real, to be very brutal, is growth for the sake of growth is the behavior of a cancer cell, right? So when you have these huge companies that can't actually grow their business with old legacy products and formulation, they actually see their product share of market is shrinking. They'll start dumping it overseas. They'll start dumping it wherever they can. That's their strategy. Their strategy isn't to provide a better product or a healthier value. And that's really where small business is coming in, because Ed made the point about coffee or any of the other things is the small businesses raise the benchmark and raise the standard. And while they do that, they increase the market share. So if you want to really understand a company's values and principles, you would base it on, call it their market cap, which means how big of a value do they have. You will always see the smaller companies outperforming the bigger companies, and the bigger companies do their best to more or less copy, mimic, lift all of their, strategies. But what really people, what we need to really communicate if you're directly to the consumer is the consumer wants the story. The consumer wants the face of the decision maker. The consumer wants to know more about it. And by more about it, I mean, what do you put in it? What better place to actually get that from than an owner or a decision maker from a small company versus a giant corporation that's basically employing people, for different incentives, let's just say.
That would be my concern. That's with the indoor farming being taken over by big corporations. Like I know that Ed touched on that a little bit, but like in terms of even just getting I mean, I know that both of them can exist, regenerative farming and indoor farming, and the more the merrier, right? But as we see these indoor farming, businesses grow and being funded by big corporations, that's taking money out of the pockets of, people like regenerative farms that are looking for grants, and those grants will go towards supporting tech-based indoor farms, and that would just be that's a little concerning too. And the reason why these big tech companies and corporations are probably looking to do that is they're going to save money because they can use robotics for indoor farming versus, you know, um, regenerative farming. And how is that going to affect our ecosystem, right? The more um, big indoor farming corporations get funded, maybe the less regenerative farming ones will. And how is that going to affect it? I don't know. I'm not the brightest tool in the shed or the sharpest tool in the shed here, but I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah, no, make a good point there, because in every well, just to bring back cannabis for a second, the states that are becoming legal are there's this sort of race for the limited number of growing licenses. And so, to your point, there's a limited number of resources going to some of these sort of new edgy farms. Now, I'll put you at ease right off the bat, because you can't grow everything indoors, at least not yet, or at least not on a large scale, like a commercial scale, to where they would want to do that. And so you're going to see a difference in those two things by itself. But the other thing with growing indoors, to me, the benefit really comes in growing in places that don't have the best climate to grow outdoors. And you might think Illinois. Well, Illinois is a very big farm state, but you have a lot of things that you have to deal with outside. You have floods, you have droughts, insects that are worse outside usually, and the big conglomerates can handle those losses and those costs a lot more, and so they'll come through. And almost every industry we see it, where the bigger the company, I guess, the more that they can take over that industry. And we're now seeing legislation even being changed, specifically in the cannabis world, where they are actively trying to sort of uh, chip away at the edges of the average regular person that wants to grow their own. They're the regulations and the red tape, they're constantly trying to, like, manipulate and to maneuver, to where slowly but surely they're trying to give most of these contracts to much bigger companies. A lot of these companies come from out of state too, and they just come in with the money and they can take up all these contracts, which that's unfortunate. But they can it's the same old game: politicians in the pocket of some lobbyist, and then they want to change the rules on us, like, every time.
Yeah, I want to add one more thing to the government licensing component to cannabis, because the driver and the incentive is money, and that driver is based on the cost. One thing a lot of people don't realize is the cost of cannabis has never been correlated to the cost of production. It's actually been correlated to the cost of risk. And the government understands that if they make it more expensive via the licensing process or the ability to grow or cultivate it, it actually inflates and maintains a cost for it. When what really is happening is the more cannabis that is grown, no matter if it's locally or worldwide, the cheaper it gets, which is why ubiquity, free access, and lower government regulation is really winning in these markets, because at the end of the day, people want to do it for themselves, or they want to buy it from directly from the farmer.
Yeah, buy local, farmers markets. What's up, Johnny? Go ahead.
Hey, I had to jump off for a second, but yeah, just man, I heard my name come up, and then Lisa had just thrown me a mic request at the same time, so I just want to come up and say hello. Good to hear everybody. Yeah, it's so important that we start growing our food more locally, and yeah, responsibly and sustainably, and yeah, I was just actually calling a congressman about this issue. You know, they're pushing liability shields through now for these big corporations. So anybody interested in ever considered calling a congressman, I think now's a great time to do it, especially senators on the subcommittee, because they're going to be considering putting this legislation in. You know, it's we got to be able to stand up for ourselves, right? I like this idea that like Thomas Jefferson thought of, like uh, us being free people based on us being sovereign, homesteads, sovereign freeholds, and we got to get back to that, and we're losing, I think, 77 small farms a day. Is that crazy? And given big ag a pass, and this is a national security threat, by the way. This is literally coming from ChemChina, which is China because they're state owned. This is coming from Bayer Monsanto, coming for our rights to stand up for ourselves when we're harmed by these poisons. And something I learned recently: your neighbor using 1% what they use, or you being exposed to 1% of what they're using, as far as glyphosate, can cut down the nutrient density of your food by 90%. A drift level amount of this poison can, and this is all sorts of pathologies. Why are people so hungry? Why are they overeating? Why are 70% of us not have enough magnesium? This gets back to that. And so yeah, these are our fundamental rights to stand up for ourselves. This is harming our kids. They're the most vulnerable. We're in a fertility crisis. So this is just a salt of the earth kind of basic issue. And unfortunately, somehow, I don't mean to get political, but as a conservative, it's like, man, this is the first time in over a decade I feel like our side's like way off on this issue, while the other side's like on the right side of this. So, it's time to stand up and be heard about this, and wake some people up. We cannot be ceding our rights to the likes of these profiteers who are, making big bucks off us being sicker, poorer, and having less rights. And yeah, man, let's grow doing it ourselves. I love the idea that we can be the answer locally. The more of us doing it, it's inspiring. And yeah, so many people I've had a chance to kind of share my passion with gardening and doing things the right way has they get into it. People get into it. So it's yeah, we got to just keep on keeping on. And yeah, much love to everybody who's doing that.
Yeah, thanks, Johnny.
Johnny,
Listen, go to his page, guys, if you want to get that information. He's got it nice and laid out for going to, your congressman. Sorry, go ahead, Robin.
no, I just wanted to thank him. He's always just like fighting so hard against this stuff, and he's just a very, very valuable voice for advocating for standing up to big government. And I put his his post up in the Nest regarding these things that are happening right now. And I just wanted to ask you regarding, do you know what the status is right now on Section 453 in particular? We've got this, for folks that don't know, we do have a bill right now that will block lawsuits against pesticide makers. And they haven't voted on it yet. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so it passed subcommittee, so there's going to be a bigger, broader, wider vote coming up. So that's coming up. So it's a great time to call anybody who's a conservative, especially those who are kind of Maha adjacent. Anybody who is for constitutional rights, anybody who's against the transgender agenda, anybody who's for our kids being healthier, anybody who's for national security against the likes of ChemChina, especially us in our, people are these congressmen, they'll take a meeting with us sometimes, even if it's just 10 minutes, if we are their constituents. And so my invite there is, if anybody is calling, ask for that. And if you can get that, I will do everything I can to help join that meeting and advocate if you'd like some help there. And if I can't make it, there's a list I've got of other people who are just fired up about this issue who can help as well. And yeah, there's just so many reasons from both the left and the right across the spectrum why we can't let this happen. But yeah, so it's coming up for a wider vote. So just calling anybody who's conservative on this issue who might be on the wrong side of this one would be great. And then also in the where there's a fear that, to become law, it's got to pass the Senate as well. So they've got their appropriations committee meeting. So there's a list of you can find on my profile as well, like senators who are on that subcommittee who may be voting this in on that bill coming up. So those are also good ones to contact. And yeah, it's so crazy. It's unconstitutional. There's no way you can even make the idea like, oh yeah, we should totally just let these guys do whatever and forget the court system for the small guy. Yeah, it's just so basic. And this is like, I don't think we can overstate the language of how sick we are as Americans. You look at our longevity, you look at all the diseases increasing, and I do think that until these recent mRNA vaccines, these pesticides are the main culprit, maybe bigger than everything else put together. And so, yeah, it's time to stand up about it.
It's
Something that
crazy
was
that
really
China-
telling about it. It passed with voice vote. They didn't even call the roll, so you know who was voting on which side of the issue. That's really telling when that happens, because most of the time, they do the voice and then they ask for the roll. So you actually have to have a count and know who voted on what side. But boy, did that just slip through quick.
So Ed, why would they do that? So because the Democrats would want the Republicans on the wrong side of this issue, because I think it was going to go down the party lines. Would they do that because there was a couple of Democrats that had gone over to the other side, or what would be the idea behind that? Because every other section they didn't do a voice vote; there was a roll vote. I don't know. It's wild.
Yeah, it's both parties are pretty, when it comes to big ag and big food, they're so powerful, that both parties, I think it was Shelley Pingree that was the one that spoke sort of actually against it, but so we know which side she was on. But otherwise, I've been to the agricultural outlook forum that they have every year in February, where you really learn how the sausage is made, and it doesn't really matter which party is. The big guys determine everything at the beginning of the year that's going to happen, and after that, it's all just a matter of record. It's just a formality at that point. And everybody who thinks they can go in midstream and change things, it's almost, especially in ag, same as big pharma, I guess, same as financial industry. Some of those industries are just so powerful that they give so much money to both sides. They know how to play the game.
Johnny, I would say as far as the voice vote versus the roll call, legally it comes down to two things, which is one, complicity. And then two, legal immunity means that legally they can't take responsibility for the vote. So now they have sort of that little call it a loophole or whatever it is. If it's not on the roll call, they actually were complicit in furthering the legislation, but not necessarily liable in the future, or more importantly, the damage that it's going to cause.
Yeah, well said. You know, one other thing I wanted to say is that if you are calling in, you know, the misinformation going on the other side, this big ag narrative is that this Section 453 and this kind of a warning label legislation doesn't amount to a liability shield, which is just a complete lie, complete fabrication. So very easy, quick Google search. You can look up how, you know, they are using just months ago, there's a big article on it in the AP, like they are using in the Supreme Court, they're trying to throw out 67,000 cases about non-Hodgkin's lymphoma for homeowners using Roundup in their gardens. They're trying to throw all those out about the warning labels. They're saying, "Oh, well, you know, we couldn't put anything besides what the EPA told us to on the warning labels." It's a weird little defense they're using, but that's what they're doing, and it does have some legal weight to it that you know judges can go along with it, and so they're using that exact defense. So the very idea, like in this vote last week, you know, the guy Mike Simpson for the Republicans got up there and he said, "Oh, these Maha moms are calling us and they are wrong. This is misinformation. This is not what this is about." And it's like, dude, are you kidding me, brother? This isn't. Let's have this debate. Let's have this out. Are you? I mean, I could understand you being like lied to and kind of going along with it, not really looking into it. But it's like you're gonna stand up there and make a fool of yourself. So, anyways, if you're giving them a call about this and talking about different things, you know, this is one one narrative that they're going out. Big Ag's putting out there that's pretty easy to counter. You know, this is pretty easy to look up. That is exactly what's going on. So,
Johnny, is there anybody out there like shilling for this or campaigning that it's a good thing? Like who are we looking at as far as the opposition and all?
I mean, I think it's just the profiteers. You know, these are cancer profiteers too. You know, Bayer makes billions off of chemo treatments, and they own Monsanto, who's causing cancer. Like, that's so terrible. That's like these corporations want the rights to people. They want to rate. It's like, well, who's in jail? Like, how many corporations are in jail? How many corporations are on death row? It's like none of them. It's like there's no accountability for this nonsense. I think we need to like really seriously consider disbanding the charter of letting these corporations exist. You know, this is something that you know Supreme Court justices have talked about. Like it's serious. Like if you're just going to be a serial criminal who is just against the people, then we need to talk about your right to exist. You know, and it's just yeah, so it's wild. And Bayer literally made the Zyklon B gas in World War II as IG Farben. So they were part of that Holocaust back then. And now, you know, we are being Holocausted or we are being genocided. And, you know, genocide implies intent, but I think it's like, well, there's enough knowledge out there. And, you know, something else is the Monsanto papers show like they know what they're doing. They know they're fabricating the science. They know, like, they were really upset when IARC came out, you know, 10, 12 years ago and said, this is a probable carcinogen. Well, they were preparing for that to come out 6 months before it happened. They, it wasn't a surprise. Like they were like, oh yeah, because they've known. You can look back to the 70s, the 80s, how the EPA was like, yeah, this is a probable carcinogen way back when, and then lobbying from Monsanto got that turned around. So it's just, I mean, lies after lies, deceit after deceit. We got them like caught them red-handed, dead to rights about all of their fabricating the science. You know, there's 5 studies that were ghost-written that were implicated in being completely compromised about glyphosate safety. still cited by the EPA to this day. There's no independent research or from the government about cancers, and they don't study it. They don't even study it. And yeah, it's just, this whole idea that, with fertility, we see, the fertility of generations down the line, like the second and third and fourth generation, that the fertility is worse for them. These are literal, seem to be really powerful depopulation methods if people are really working towards that. So yeah, it's just crazy, and yeah, we just really gotta stand up about it.
Johnny, with corporations in the halls of Congress, it's basically a giant entitlement program that's funded by the people who produce the goods and services. And it's crazy because when you see corporations and lawmakers, aka government employees, behaving as if they're entitled to these things at our expense and with our money, at the end of the day, these people have to be culled. They don't have to be reformed. They literally have to be removed, because if you look at them like the pigs at the trough that they are, once you remove the money, aka the feed, they're either going to starve or they're going to go into the trailer.
I'm very concerned also, not just about the big corporations, but the foreign interest and the fact that China owns so much of our farmland. That needs to stop too. So obviously, our politicians not only need to stop taking money from big corporations, but excuse me, from foreign countries, which we know that's happening. I just feel like if we care about where our food comes from, then we need to care about who owns the land it grows on.
Well, when you had,
and it is.
oh,
I'll just say real quick, yeah, this is like a cover for what this does open the door to bioweapon warfare, which I think we're already under, but just more maliciously, more explicitly, and there not being accountability there. Or go ahead, Ed. Sorry about that.
Ed, we can't hear you.
I don't. His mic's still muted. He might have to step away or something. I was just going to say though, it's so weird how we make corporations like an entity that like a person. But then you think about it, like how would we not? Think about a farmer. I have to have an LLC because food is one of the easiest ways to get in trouble. Or get sued because you got someone sick. And I actually could not even insure my farm. I had to promise them that I was not going to grow sprouts. And sprouts are different than microgreens. I do grow microgreens. So we had this whole conversation because my insurance company didn't even know how to handle it. And they wanted to really make sure that I wasn't growing sprouts because sprouts have had salmonella issues in different places. And that's why Jimmy John's doesn't sell them anymore and this and that. And so they had to make me promise not to do it. Ed, I see you're back, brother. Go ahead.
yeah, somehow I dropped out. Just going to bring up the Monsanto Bayer situation because that happened in the first Trump administration, and you had Monsanto with all these lawsuits, and they were going to go under, and so then a foreign company, obviously Bayer, comes in and wants to buy them, and the whole thing in those situations is why. You want to know in these big company buy-ups and stuff, why? So that it makes sense. And of course, they were the ones that had the drug for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma treatments. And that was the obvious reason why. There's no other reason. And yet that gets approved. We had the same situation with JBS just recently, which is, that company out of Brazil that is trying to really control all the livestock processing. And, very corrupt company that's been fined and caught, influence governments and doing this and that. And what did they do? They gave some money through one of their subsidiaries to Trump's inauguration parties. And all of a sudden, they wanted to be in the SEC and be on the New York Stock Exchange, and it got approved, which gives them an incredible amount of power. And yet, as I said, the lawsuits against them over history and how they, got caught contaminating and not having cleanliness. I mean, just lists of problems. Yet they buy their way into the system, and um, and it just is hard to stop.
Ed, you're not wrong, man. But I gotta give everybody a little bit of hope here, or at least a point us in the right direction. And that's basically the original conversation. And that's doing a little bit more for yourself, even if it's a tiny bit at a time, and inching towards that life that you want. Um, you got to start somewhere, and and this goes with so many things, a health journey in general, exercise, all those things. You got to start somewhere. And if we're so frustrated with this system, and it seems almost impossible to affect, or to main, or to right, or to correct, um, growing a little bit of your own food, and becoming, getting back to your own ability of self-relying on your own. And that doesn't mean like, hey, maybe you can't do everything yourself, but maybe family and friends, that's still self-reliance, like your own communities. And I just got to say, that's the hope here, because there are many groups, many communities growing and building every day. And maybe that's because I'm in it, and so I'm seeing it more. But I swear, when I first started this, I didn't think there were this all these different gardening communities and health communities, and all this. And so I like to think that I've made a little bit of a dent in pushing people to do that, and making it seem like, hey, that's an avenue that you could go, because you know how people are online, that you're going to get somebody copying you. So I knew that right off the bat. I was like, okay, let's get a whole slew of people making their own gardening podcasts, and make this thing popular. So that's kind of where I'm coming at it from, Ed. Like the ground up, the grassroots, so to speak. Like I changed my show times to during the morning, and it's a long story, but I had them at nighttime, which wasn't working because I have a son, and nighttime is tough sometimes. But I had it at night because I wanted to replace. I wanted to take that template of the late night comedy talk shows that we grew up with. The Tonight Show and all the Jimmys, this Jimmy that, everybody. All of those shows do what do they do? Every one of them, Johnny Carson, all of them. They take the glitz and the glamour. They take celebrities, and they take music and comedy, and they use it to dress up politics and their own viewpoints, and their own agendas. And now it's even worse than it was at the beginning. Obviously, they get their talking points from their network, and here's what we're pushing. But hey, you're going to have Ariana Grande on, and you're going to have this and that, and it's going to be so great. Well, that is literally what I tried to do with growing your own food. Let's make it fun and entertaining at nighttime, because sometimes people need that incentive, or need that um, what's the word, like that image behind it, like, oh, it's cool. There's some celebrities who have gardens. You have some celebrities who have like a winery and a cannabis farm and stuff. And so my whole point is, like, we gotta work backwards almost. And I think it's working. I think it's working. We're through pressure from the bottom up. We're pushing pop culture to get farmers who are regenerative to be popular. Like Joe Rogan has a guy on. I can't remember his name, but he's got this ranch, and he described how he was a one of those industrial farmers, and then it took him about 20 years to convert fully to regenerative farming. And he's had him on a few times now, and it's like, that's what we need. We need to make that guy a celebrity. We need to make our farmers our celebrities, and compete over how many people we fed, and how good how our quality was. And like, me and Johnny are competing over who has the most tomatoes at the highest quality. Part of the problem is that we were competing before on bushels. Our farmers compete on how much, the quantity, but they're not competing on the quality. And that's because they don't want us to look too close at it, and, oh, hey, what's this
forever chemical in here or whatever, you know what I mean? So, and it's similar to the fact that they've had us focused on calories for so long. Calories, who cares about calories? We need to worry about the nutrients that we're actually intaking. The biggest one of the, the saying, the biggest trick that the devil overplayed was to convince us he didn't exist. Well, they convinced us a couple things. They convinced us to forget about pollution and to only worry about carbon dioxide, which we need. And then they also convinced us to not worry about nutrients, not worry about what's on the label, and only worry about our calorie counting. Remember all the calorie counting fads we had? We're kind of going the other direction now. But that's my point. I'm trying to, I don't know what color the pill is here, but I'm trying to give us a little bit of hope of like, hey, we can do this from the other direction. We may not ever get those people that are in power, the elites, to cooperate, but a lot of them do things like, take Trump for example. He likes to do things that's going to make him popular. Well, if us, the people, keep putting those things in the forefront, hey, we're worried about Monsanto. Hey, we're worried about Monsanto nonstop, like Johnny does and like others do. It is making a difference. I mean, we just got to keep plugging away, guys. Just keep plugging away.
Yeah, I think the regenerative ag movement has sort of shown how far it can go, because 50 years ago, it was just a few very small farms, maybe Dave Brandt that had about 800 or 1,000 acres, started to do some no-till and started introducing some cover crops. And, considering how big of a paradigm shift and the knowledge it took to transition all of this, now it's known around the world. As you said, Will Harris, he's the one that was on Joe Rogan. Gabe Brown met last year with King Charles. This year he met with Prince William just recently. We have farmers now traveling the world. We have Alejandro Coelho from the grazing in the Chihuahuan Desert was in Dubai last winter talking about it. Kiss the Ground and Common Ground, those two movies, attracted celebrity interest. I've started to do working on developing a project through a group that's working with athletes, the pro athletes that want, to talk about eating better and better food. And so, yeah, I mean, it's proof that if you stick to it, and any paradigm shift starts grassroots, but you just got to keep hanging in there and moving forward. I knew that it had something to it. I knew that it had potential, but it's pretty cool now to see what's happened over 50 years from what it was 50 years ago, and see that something that farmers started, even though it went through, the soil health, the sustainable, the regenerative, everything's got to have a name, but regenerative in ag is now known around the world, and it's now regenerative finance, regenerative medicine. It's, and it gets greenwashed some, but at the core, you can't change that, and that's what's really positive about it. And the technology and knowledge. And I mean, for years, I was like, could this be the future? Could this actually be the way we feed the world? And we never we didn't know enough. But it was probably 6, 7, 8 years ago that I realized we know enough now that it is the future, and it's going to be damn hard to stop. Even though they're with the new mRNA sprays and stuff they're talking about doing, I don't know. Even with the contamination with chemicals, we now know that microbes can pretty much solve those problems. So, it is really positive. But you got to, the whole idea that we realized was that we couldn't really fight big ag and big chemical in what they were doing. So the idea is, well, what if we just replace them? And I know farms. I have a buddy, he's got 7,000 acres. He used to give the GMO seed companies and the fertilizer and the pesticides companies well over $1 million a year. Now he's figured out how to do it so he doesn't give them any money anymore. He's even creating his own seeds. So that's how you change the system. It's like Jonathan Lundgren, our entomologist that used to work for USDA, and now he works with regenerative ag. He's like, if you don't need them, don't use them. You know, that's an easy way to solve the problem because that's where we started. We had all these chemicals that they told us to use, and then we'd have customers come to us and say, you know, is this safe to eat? And all we could say is, well, we've been told they are, you know, but as a farmer, that liability hangs on you. Last thing you want to do, especially when you're a young farmer, is to be selling to somebody and using something that they told you was safe. And then all of a sudden, 20 years later, you found out the person you were selling to has a problem and maybe it connected with what you did. And so that's where our thing is, let's stop taking these risks, you know, let's try to eliminate that so we can have a clean conscience when we hand somebody the food we produce. And I think most farmers are like that. And that's why they're all trying to, how can we limit those risks and limit the cost of something that maybe we don't need? Maybe there's a better, easier, cheaper way to solve the problem. And I think that's what regeneratives have shown. You know, we totally embrace the potential of nature, and we found that nature really hasn't let us down. It hasn't given us an obstacle that, you know, with time that we can overcome. And yet we can still do it at large scales and all scales because we need all scales because we have cities with millions of people in them. And so, yeah, it's really positive. I mean, I think we're showing in many ways that, you know, there are alternatives to having everything controlled by just three or four. You know, in ag and food, we always talk about the big four, and the big four always have probably at least 40 to 50%, if not like in meat processing, about 85% control of the whole market. And that just can't be good in concept. I'll land it.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about diversity and the quality. I mean, you have to have competition to do that, and I think we never needed this before now, but people don't realize, and I mean, a lot of people do, I guess, but there's a growing realization that those are talking points, those are selling points. Hey, okay, let me bring it back to the organic label. Certified organic is a label and you can pay the government to have it, and it's not as organic as you might think, but people can get around that. And I found one way to get around that is by putting everything on the label. They can list it out. They can say, 100% natural, all natural this. They can say, no additive this, no, none of this, no pesticide. You can just like list it all out versus just that one label that we're supposed to just trust and say, oh, it says organic. But there's so many little loopholes and little issues with the certified organic label that, that's again, dumbing us down by looking at the one thing versus actually listing it out. And those are selling points now, just like made in America can be a selling point. Yeah, your product might be a little more expensive, but you've got something on that product that the other product doesn't have. And it's, whatever the thing is that you're selling. Like if it's food, then, you might have a healthier product because of all the environmentals and all you might say it's regenerative agriculture. And I got to push back a little bit, Ed, not really push back, but add to you were saying how regenerative is the answer to the problem, but I actually think it's more than that. Regenerative gives us more back than just a neutral way to grow our food. We're now able to do things like carbon sequestration and actually revitalize the land more so than just what we need for our food. It's almost like making the land more nutritious while also taking our food out of it. You know what I'm saying, Ed? It's kind of like it's more so than just solving the problem. It's actually making the land better than what it was maybe for the last 50 years at least.
Oh yeah, I mean they talk about there is no silver bullet, but boy, when we look at all the externalities, I mean that's what Will Harris you were talking about talks about a lot, like when he was on Joe Rogan or when he's been on a lot of other shows. He says, one thing that regenerative ag does is it solves a lot of the externality problems that big ag hasn't solved as far as polluting, restoring aquifers, health and nutrition of our food, clean air, economics, you know, natural resources, not having to use so much or even any of the synthetic nitrogen that's used from natural gas. So, eliminating the use of those sort of things. I mean, there's just so many advantages to it. Adding more diversity on our farms that can supply markets. I mean, so much in the Midwest is corn, soy, maybe a little wheat. I mean, it's pretty limited. And when I used to travel out there, 50, 60 years ago, it was very different. It was already pretty much taken over, but there were a lot more integrated and a little more diversity back then, and actually even the rural communities were little better alive. And after that, and I haven't been out there recently, like I used to travel all the time and meet with tons of farmers out there, but most of those communities are just devastated. And of course, that's another thing that Will Harris talks about. He's in Bluffton, Georgia, and it's one of the poorest counties in the country. And he showed pictures of his town. I mean, there was just nothing left. No work, no businesses, no nothing. And him transitioning his farm and building local processing and local distribution and all kinds of things, he's revitalized his whole community. I mean, it's starting to actually be a destination now for people to come visit. People used to, when I was young, one of the big things people that lived in, urban or suburban areas used to do in the summer is they all had a relative out in the country, and they would go out and spend a week or two with the kids, and diversified farms that were, not so worrying about all the chemical applications, so the kids could go out and play, and they had the animals and they had the pond for fishing, and that was a big thing. And then when it just became monocultures or corn and soy, it wasn't, with all the chemicals, there was not much to go visit and play in anymore. And who took over? Instead, you just go to Disneyland in this fantasy world where kids don't really get to understand what it's like, what growing food is, what getting a friendship with a cow or a sheep or a chicken is like, or fishing in a pond, or helping weed and go collect the vegetables for dinner. All these experiences, and why so many people left the farm because they weren't making any money. It was just your indentured servant, basically. That's one of the things we talk about a lot in agriculture. You're under contract, you have none of your own rights. Pork and chicken is just totally taken over now. And yet that's what they promote us eating. More pork, especially more chicken, and not beef. Well, because beef is still rather independent, and let alone lamb or sheep that we used to eat a lot of in the United States until Second World War, and all of our soldiers went over and had to eat canned mutton, sort of, and they came back and they couldn't do it. And then, of course, one of the reasons why I actually got into sheep into the 60s and 70s was the fiber. I mean, wool is an amazing, it's God's gift of a fiber, has such amazing qualities, and it's just been devastated. People can't even afford to shear their sheep to sell the wool. Yet I have like smart wool socks that I can throw in the washing machine will last me 5 times longer than any cotton socks I bought. Forget about the polyester socks, which we know how much harm all these microfibers from clothing and microfleece and all that kind of stuff cause. So I'll land it.
Thank you, Ed. Yeah, I'm gonna have to wrap it up within the next 15 minutes. I know that Waylon also has to go. So did want to say a few more things, and then Waylon, I'll let you close out if nobody else has anything they want to add. I did just discover in real time while we were doing this space that Representative Mary Miller, who's actually from Waylon's state of Illinois, um, she has introduced legislation aiming at banning certain individuals and Chinese companies from purchasing farmland and residential property. I put that post in the nest, or you can go to my profile. But if you guys can support her and let your representatives know that you support them supporting her in this bill, in this legislation, then that would be great. Um, Also, I agree with you, Ed, about pork and chicken, and I highly recommend the book Sacred Cow: The Case for Better Meat, by Diana Rogers, because that talks about how it's not the animal, but how they're raised, and that, a beef is the most nutrient dense animal food that we could possibly eat. And then, of course, if like China that took over, was Smith Foods. They took over that, and that our meat gets literally sent over to China and back in here without hardly any restrictions. You just don't know what you're eating. And that is my thoughts as we wrap things up. Also, I wanted to thank Lisa for co-hosting and encourage everybody to follow each other, because I'm seeing most people in this room are growing or interested in growing, and we should support one another in that. And also, I see that Tico is not here anymore, but I know that there is a post underneath this space, and that is a testimony of how good his compost tea is, and the things that he creates that help grow better food. So go visit his profile. And Kim and Amy and Terry have a weekly spaces also on growing, and that's on Tuesdays and Fridays. And so please follow them and check out their profiles. And I think I put in the nest when their next spaces. And so, Lisa, did you want to say something as we close out before I give it to Waylon?
No, I just wanted to thank Waylon and you and for hosting this great space. I have learned so much. I really don't have anything to add because I'm just absorbing and learning. And thank everybody who contributed and everybody who stopped by to listen. Appreciate you all very much.
And Lisa is like me, growing in a small space. So if you want to also get some inspiration from her, and she also does canning, she just did a really great mango jalapeno salsa, which I have to try. I wish you lived closer, because instead of me doing it, I'd rather try yours.
It was jalapeno peach because
Oh,
I live in the
sorry.
peach state. That's okay. I'm all about the peaches.
Waylon. Oh,
Well,
yes.
peaches come from a can. They were put there by. All right. So, hey, guys, thanks again for the space very much. I want to say thanks for Twisted Cannabis, one of my sponsors, hanging out in the chat there, and he also does his own streams and also does some spaces now. So, shouts out, brother. Appreciate you coming in. Also, I wanted to ask you, Robin. I'll probably have to have you on sometime as a guest. But do you grow basil?
Yes, it's my favorite
Okay.
herb. That's why my last name is Basil. And I
I
have
mean,
tons of it right now ready to harvest and make pesto with. So, yeah.
nice. I was gonna be kind of upset if you said no. I'm like, what's going on here? But yeah, basil is one of my favorites too, just because it was like it took no. I didn't need to do a lot with it, and I just loved the aquaponics system. And anyway, once I finally started to harvest it instead of like just it growing up into the lights, I figured it out. But yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Come through and if you happen to comment, I can't fix my live stream on X. So honestly, the only way you can comment is on the post. So unless you are a verified member, and then you can comment, blue checks can comment. I don't know how to fix it. It's a stupid thing. It's a Rumble Studios problem. But yeah, come and find me anywhere. I'm on Facebook too. If you happen to still use it, It has some things, there's some qualities still about it. That's where most of my followers are. I'm still trying to grow on X. I appreciate all the follows. You guys got me over 1,200 today, so thanks again. And I'm actually still live, so when we close this out, if you guys want to pop over and say hi, I have to do a couple last things on my show, so you could always come over and say hi to the live stream and see me and my co-host Sprout. And thanks again, Robin. We'll talk to you soon, I'm sure. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And thank you for everybody who's listening, everybody who contributed. And Amy, did you want to say anything about your spaces or anything else?
Yeah, so we do homesteading for sovereignty. Kim, Terry, and we have spaces on Tuesday and Fridays, and we also have a community, which is pinned to my post. I would say I'd put it in the chat, but we don't have a chat today. So yeah, please join the community. People are there 24/7. August, my favorite time of year, is Everything Counts Challenge. You're going to hear this a lot from me. So every day in the month of August, preserve, harvest, save. I mean, anything you can do for Everything Counts Challenge. And please take pictures and share with us, because we are educating people on what to do. Like, I know how to can, but there are things that even I haven't heard of that I get the information from you guys. So we are a community, we are a tribe, we share together, we learn together, we laugh and cry together. So if you get a chance, please join that community. And you can follow me, or Kim is in listener, and we have spaces twice a week. Thank you. And Miss Robin, your spaces are amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Anybody else have any last words? All right, guys. Thank you so much. I will see you again next week at 11 a.m. Eastern.
Okay. All right. Okay, we're back. Actually, in the realm now, and I can be seen and heard. And actually, you could see me the whole time and hear me. But I'm actually dialed into the live stream, guys. I see 19 people in the house. Thank you very much. There I am. Yes, I'm right here. Finally back. I'm back. So that was it was interesting. I guess there was a bit of an echo in the beginning. I did figure that out. So at least I know this is doable for the future. That's cool. It's cool to know. I think I know what I did wrong. It was still kind of tough. I couldn't use my computer for it. I had to use my phone, but you guys could hear me, so that was good. We do have a winner of our number post today. You do have one more spin of that tomorrow, guys. So if you didn't get in on it today, you can make sure you get in on locals and go to the indoorfarmer.locals.com. I think I got my mic too close. Okay, there we go. And get on that number post. We got one more spin tomorrow. Perry Wood is our winner today. Congrats, Perry. Shouts out. Okay, we also have a door prize to do. Let's get a door prize going on. Make sure you hit that like button if you haven't yet already. Facebookers, make sure you like and share and tag, and we will get you on the wheel in just a moment. But first, I'm going to read this ad here from Pickaxe. They've silenced you long enough. Join Pickaxe and experience true freedom of speech and freedom of reach. Now, Pickaxe has kind of integrated with Rumble, which is kind of interesting. The way that you can you can share your live streams into the feed of Pickaxe, and I guess you can watch it right there, like it's part of that app. It's kind of interesting. It says if you're on Rumble, Pickaxe is your next move. Think of it like if X and Substack had a baby. with more freedom and smarter tools. Well, better check it out if you want to see what they're saying about it. You can post your Rumble videos directly in the feed, and they actually play in the feed. Okay, with no algorithm hiding your content. That's nice. Even better, with their new beta feature, you can connect with your Rumble channel so your videos and live streams auto post. See, I'm going to have to check that out. I want to do that because if it's an auto post, it's going to make things easier for those of us who have to do it all on our own. See, plus article creation, paywalls, revenue sharing ads, and the ability to have ads on your content with your own promo code and tracking links so you keep full commissions on sales. And yeah, free blue check verification so bots and burner accounts don't hijack the conversation. I'm sorry, yeah, the conversation. So yeah, free blue check marks, free verification badge. Holy cow, I need a drink of water, I guess. Pickaxe doesn't manipulate your reach. It amplifies your voice, freedom of speech, and freedom of reach. Check it out now at pickaxe.com and take your voice back. Let's go. Another 17 cents from Pickaxe. Thanks, Pickaxe. I'll take the 17 cents. Code 2. Oh, that was before. Okay. Yeah, I was just getting it set back up, the mic. Yeah, Rumble took a crap on me right as I went to go start the show. They say I need to verify my email, and there's no email verification. They didn't send me then I sent them an email saying, hey, there's nothing there, and they just sent me an automated response that shows some links to go and look at. Go look at the way or the policies on verifying email or something, and I'm like, my email's been verified for years. That shouldn't be a thing. Yeah, they gave me a link that doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't even. It's a broken link. Thanks, Rumble. Hey, Kayla. Hey, Jeff. John, what's up? Sorry I'm late. That's okay, man. We had a long show today, and a lot of people probably didn't hang out because I wasn't really able to check comments and respond. But I saw a lot of good comments, a lot of people responding to the conversation we had. So go check out the rest of the show. It was a really good interview. I got to be a guest. It was fun. I like to be. I love to be the center of attention. No, I like to have time to ramble to people when they actually listen. It's great. That's why I do my show. So when I go over to live spaces on X, sometimes I just kind of sit back and I'll pop in when I can. But today I was the main guest, or the guest of honor, you might say. And so guest of honor sounds like a party. We weren't at a party, but anyway, I was the main guest, and it made it feel a little bit more, it made me feel more okay with taking the mic, and running with it, because I try not to do that when I'm on other people's spaces too much, since I have my own live stream and I ramble all day on this. Anyway, speaking of rambling, let's get over here and start doing the door prize. We're just gonna go with everybody who's here right now. So let's see a hashtag WTIF in the comments if you would like to be on the wheel, and I'm talking Facebook or Rumble or YouTube. Just comment and I'll throw you on the wheel. We're not live on locals anymore, but you know what I can do? I can grab people that are from locals. Let's see. Let's do this. Wait. View as a member. No, shouldn't be viewing as a member. What's going on here? Oh, I see. I have to. No? What the heck? What the heck, man? That's not right. Can I click this? There it is. That's what I'm looking for. Hey, our friend Angie came back. So we'll put Angie on the wheel. Joe Orzel mixed in between all of Angie's pictures. Propaganda. Okay, Kayla, Joe Orzel, Angie, Margaret, Emily. Okay, I see a bunch of you in there now. Let's get it going. We'll say Angie first. Please just here. Joe, Kayla. I saw Emily, Margaret. Who else? Diane and Kim, Marston, and Rose. Okay. Now everybody else will be current. Whoever is commenting right now, I will get you on the wheel. An extra time. Okay, Kayla, Margaret. This is all on Rumble. Twisted. Margaret on YouTube. Kim. Twisted. Again. Join Pickaxe. Figured why not. I haven't tried it yet. I should have. I read one ad and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Let me know what you think about it. I'll have to check it out sometime. Let's see. I'm looking at Facebook now. I'm going to put Kayla down because she just commented not long ago, but see you're on Rumble now. Twisted over on Facebook. Margaret on Facebook. Okay. Let me check the Rumble feed real quick. Okay. See, this is what I see this all the time on Twitch, where it's just I can't pull it up, I guess. I just see someone's name come up like they commented, but there's no comment. It's weird. Looks like the Truth app. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's something like that. They're all similar. I'm on one called Minds.com, which is supposed to be an open source thing. I mean, they kind of added live streaming, but it's really broken. But mostly everything else is cool about it. You literally earn cryptocurrency by liking and sharing and just like doing things on the site. You earn cryptocurrency, and then you can trade it in for money if you want. So it's kind of cool. So they're trying to prop up their own crypto coin with having a use, having some kind of what's the word, practical use for it. So that's a good idea. I think some sites are doing their own crypto and things. It's going to be pretty soon. Every person will have their own type of money. I'll trade you some Whalen bucks for some Twisted bucks. Let's go. Like it'll just be that's how everybody's going to be. Anyway, cool. I think I got everybody that's listening. Oh, Kim, I'll get you on here from Facebook. Yeah, that was it's a long show. I was gonna say exhausting. Not that exhausting, really, but I would like to get in a little local sesh. I have to do another live stream for Rumble Premium pretty soon, like today. Like I'll probably do a little local session. Then after that, I have to go live again, just for Rumble to do. I'll probably just like play this week's reruns, because I have to do the 5 hours of Rumble Premium. You have to be a member or a paid Rumble member or whatever to do that. I do get a Rumble ad once in a while for Rumble Premium. Let's see. Oh wow, it's another 15 minutes before I could read it if I wanted to. That's all right. It's 8 cents. I'm not too worried about it. But Rumble Premium is the way that you can get a little verification badge and you can watch my Rumble Premium content and any of the other content creators that do premium access. There's a bunch of them, all the big ones. Russell Brand, Steven Crowder, Tim Pool. Freaking Jimmy Dore. Dave Rubin. Bunch of guys that I've watched here and there. Proof is in the pudding. Okay. Getting a lot of feedback from the folks on X. Let's see if I'm getting any comments on the live stream. I used two. Okay. I had one comment. How do you handle the humidity? Okay. From Juno Russell. Yeah, I got like 12 follows today. Great. Hope to see everybody around for sure. Okay. Well, think it's time to go. 3 hours is good enough. Let's hit the door prize. Go on over to locals for a few. So she's going to edit in part of what I had spoke about after the interview portion to make sure that people know about the quarantining your fish. That makes a lot of sense. I felt like I didn't get everything into the interview portion. Okay. All right. Oh. Let's spin it. You got to be here to win it. Let's spin it. Makes it much easier just to grab everybody who is currently here with the hashtag WTIF. Thank you guys for that. I like to put it. I'd like to give everybody a chance who even came through at all and hit the like button, but without tagging them, most of them aren't going to just pop back in. So this is easier, and I'm not trying to get everyone to have to be here for 3 hours just to make it happen. I just do it towards the end. So therefore, I guess people could just start showing up at the end, but the end time varies. That's my saving grace there. You don't know when it's gonna happen. Any second. Twisted again? Twisted. Let's see. Did you win? You won last week, I think, or maybe during game night. Look at that. Twisted cannabis. Twisted. If you're still here, did you get that box yet? Did you get your box yet? Wish I woke up earlier. It was a long night. Yeah, man, you would have liked the first hour was just interviewing me, a little bit more clear back and forth between us, and yeah. Did you ever get that package, bro, with your hat and stuff? What's going on? I hope you got it. Yes, just opened it. Nice, very cool. I sent you with a couple other goodies. You know what, man? After the thought, or after I sent it to you, I thought, man, why didn't I just give him a magnet and a banner or something? But I didn't think about shoving it in there. I put a few other goodies in there though. Enjoy, enjoy. Let's see. You got 4 coupons now. You just gave one away. That's karma coming back at you. That's karma. It seems like the people who use them always get more. It's like you end up making up for it right away. Twisted. Okay. Congrats. And I wrote it down. Let's write down Perry so I don't forget. 13. Shouts out to Jess Rosebud yesterday winning the $10 gift code to the store or shop. I couldn't decide which. The store that I did a review for yesterday, the Bent Penny. She won this $10 gift card. I have to get it converted to digital for you. I think I have to email her, but I'll get that as soon as I can. And I did bring this up yesterday. I got to do a little live sesh pretty soon to get some mail going. I got a lot of things I need to mail, so I'm gonna, I don't know, hang out maybe during my day off or something and get mail done. So if you're waiting on something from me, I've got a few seeds to send out. I think a couple of swag packs, and of course I gotta go and get a gift card from Drizzle Dab as well. Jess wants to trade in her coupons for a gift card at drizzledab.com, which is awesome. Going to get some good products there. But I think that was all I had, guys. I'm not trying to waste any more time. Let's go over to locals if anyone wants to have a little sesh maybe listen to some tunes and find something funny. Is this stuff you're making in the jar? Yeah, that was my own homemade bubble hash there for you. Some homemade bubble hash. So it probably, like, I can't tell you the strain. It's probably got a bunch of strains mixed together in there. Because I did put a bunch of so I have the trim bin, and the trim bin had trim in there from a bunch of different plants, keef and shake in there from a whole bunch of plants, and I put a bunch of that in there plus my own unnamed strain that I keep growing outside, and so yeah, it'll be potent, but I can't tell you what it is. Have a good day, Kayla. We'll see you guys. Remember, there are more communities out there of people, health-minded people, trying to get a better, uh, wrap their mind around health and wellness and their own food sources and all of these things. And we're all out there trying to get better. Nobody's perfect. I haven't met a single grower yet that knows everything about everything. You might have your niche, you might have your specialty, and start there, but then branch out. Pun intended. But yeah, because everybody's got to eat. And we'll see you guys tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central Time on People in the Boxes. And I don't even know what we're going to talk about yet, but we'll be talking about something that brings us together a little bit closer. Not just about arguing over opinions, but bringing us together over our own shared experiences on the topic. So that gives us perspective. That's what tomorrow night's about. So come on over and join us. We'll see you there. And I keep saying we'll see you everywhere, but we'll be on Locals in just a minute. Meet us over there at the indoorfarmer.locals.com. And thanks again to Robin and everybody over there on the space on X. We'll see you there. Peace.
Yeah, this is for my green thumbs in the game. Wayland the indoor farmer, check my name. Sustainability, we about to reclaim. This is how we do it, keep it in the frame. I'm Wayland the farmer, the indoor king. Living off the grid, what the city can't bring. Got my hydro setup, my LED lights. Growing all my greens, all through the night. Self-sustain, that's the mission. Growing my own, I'm not missing. Indoor farming, the hustle's real. Wayland's here, and he's